There is arguably no better feeling in fantasy football than when you land an absolute steal. You get my 2025 Fantasy Football Draft Dominator, which is jam-packed with strategy and analysis for 250-plus players. And he's been strong in fantasy football. He's averaging over 18 fantasy points per game over 25 career games where he's played at least 73% of the offensive snaps. 2025 Week Winner, formerly known as the Heat Map. So you can conquer start-sit dilemmas, find plug-and-play streamers, and dominate your weekly matchups with this one-of-a-kind resource Discord community, where you can get personalized advice from 180-plus and counting sharp fantasy football minds that are helping each other dominate. 365 days of elite fantasy football analysis, resources, and Discord community. Yeah, buddy. Good morning.
What's up?
My friends, good morning, good morning, good morning. It is week 14. It's basically, hopefully, many of you are coasting into a week 15 bye week for the playoffs. However, just based on what I've seen on Twitter and Reddit and Facebook and Instagram and TikTok and YouTube and all of the things, there's plenty of humans in the world that are fighting and scrapping to get into the playoffs this week. So basically the playoffs start now. Playoffs. I'm Mikey Henninger. That's Tanner Dawson. We are your hosts. This is Inside the 20 by Basement Brewed Fantasy Football. Tanner, how you doing, buddy?
Yeah, I'm good. Just found out late last night I get to go to the KU Missouri game today. So right after the show. Yes.
Hoops. Okay, I was like, there's no way there's a college football game today, but
Nope. No. KU Missouri hoops. Both teams are looking pretty good. So potentially we get to see the best player in the nation finally play for the Kansas Jayhawks. So but no, it was a very cool invite by one of my coworkers down in Wichita. He's kind of driving up 3 hours to go watch it. He's a Mizzou guy. He invited the KU guy, and I'm like, let's go.
Yeah, that'll be good. That'll be fun. I was going to ask, was that a gift that Saint Nick brought yesterday? What did Saint Nick bring the family?
Saint Nick brought me a nice little betting day yesterday. Some good returns.
Very nice. Very nice. So for me, it was actually a pretty awesome Saint Nick day. So for anybody who doesn't know, I'm a huge nerd about these little mini Pocket Pro helmets. I collect all of these. I have all the modern ones. I have a bunch of retros, but I'm currently on a mission to collect as many retros as I can. And St. Nick hooked me up with the navy blue Chargers helmet from the 70s, 80s, 90s. So I know you're a Chiefs guy, but man, this thing was so cool to find in my
Greg.
Yeah, GQ. He's a Mizzou guy. Him and his wife participate in my March Madness pools every year, and I'm pretty sure they pick Missouri to win the whole thing every year. So it's a nice little donation to the pot, and we appreciate you, Greg.
Right.
But yeah, man, it was an awesome Saint Nick. So anybody out there who's watching, anybody who's listening, if you got a hookup on these Pocket Pro helmets, they're harder to find than I would think. Even if you go on Riddell.com right now, all of the limited edition ones are super limited and like sold out. So anyway, I'm pretty stoked about that.
Wow.
One other story to share before we hop into all the madness. We'll get to it, I promise. But I exploded a sled yesterday.
I saw that
on accident. My butt today is in so much pain. Like, all right, let me share my screen real quick. How do I?
Hey, you can do it. Okay.
So I don't know how, man. So this is at a park right nearby called Whitnell Park. And the hill is pretty cool. It's actually a lot like, it's like a triple hill, like smooths out and you keep going down and it gets going super fast. I went down one time on a green saucer, somehow managed to find a hidden ramp at the very bottom of the fastest hill. I had no clue there was a ramp down there. I didn't even know there was a ramp down there when I hit it. Like, I thought I was just hitting snow It was not snow. It was a full-blown ramp. There was a point where I'm like soaring through the air, and in my mind, I'm like, why am I flying right now? Like, what is happening? And sure enough, I hit the ground, and the sled, like my wife and my friends that we were with, they told me that it basically just exploded. The saucer just shot in half. I emerged holding only the handles of it, dude. It was, and today, my behind, woo.
Oh, I bet you it's sore.
It's no bueno. It's no
I
bueno.
bet you
Anyway.
it's sore.
It's all right. It's all right. We'll get into it. One last thing I wanted to do, Tanner, just for fun. I was thinking about this today while we were kind of on the topic of helmets, uniforms. I was going to have you, if you're cool with it, do a blind ranking of 5 NFL uniforms. You down with that?
Sorry. Repeat that one more time.
I was going to have you do a blind ranking of 5 NFL uniforms.
Man, that's
you ready?
Spot there. Okay, let's do it.
I'll give you the first one. You let me know. We're talking modern, current day uniforms. Okay, not
Current day.
Nothing like that.
Okay.
All right. I totally randomized it. The first one on the list is the Jacksonville Jaguars. So 1 through 5, without knowing who comes next, where would you rank the Jaguars uniforms? Current.
Oh, I do like the Jags little uniforms they have here. We'll go with 3. Put a 3 there.
Next one up, Minnesota Vikings.
Well, they're purple, so I'm going to take a 5.
Not a purple guy. All right, that's fair. That's fair. Next one up, New York Jets.
We'll go 4.
All right, so you got 3, 4, 5. Then we got Houston Texans.
Ooh, see, now we're getting close here. I do like the Texans colors in their jersey. Give me a 2.
All right, that means your number 1 on here is the Seattle Seahawks. How you feel about that?
Respectable. I'm okay with that.
You're okay with the list?
Okay with that. Yeah.
Fair enough.
I feel good about that. Yeah.
That's fair. All right. I've procrastinated long enough. Let's get into the madness. By the way, quick apology to everybody for how late we started. I set up a brand new computer over the weekend, and there was all kinds of technical, like I didn't know which camera, which microphone. I'm the furthest thing from an IT department, but we're here. I'm told everything sounds good. We're ready to roll. So let's get into it. If you have been here before, thank you for coming back. Welcome back. You know what to expect from the show, and we really appreciate you being here. This has been a fun journey all year. If you're new to the show, basically the idea is for the next hour, 90 minutes. Sometimes I've cracked 2 hours. We'll see what I got in me. Tanner and I are going to go through and answer as many of your fantasy football questions as we possibly can. 99% of the time, they're going to be start-sit questions. That's the nature of the beast. But occasionally we get a trade question or what's the meaning of life, etc. Now, I personally, for those of you who don't know me, I actually quit my decade-long corporate sales career back in March of 2022 to do basically fantasy football full-time. So nowadays what I do is I spend 20-plus hours, and that's not an exaggeration, 20-plus hours every single week studying meticulously every single quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end, defense, and kicker on the upcoming slate. Okay, it's not automated. It's all manual. I'm going through with a fine-tooth comb looking at matchups, snap counts, red zone trends, everything that you can possibly imagine. And I'm looking at every single player under a microscope. Everything that I find goes into a resource that I create every single week called the Week Winner, which you're going to see in a minute. We're going to use it for these start-sit decisions. But the idea here is for me to take that 20-plus hours of research and put it to work for you, helping you conquer some of these start-sit decisions. Candidly, some of these answers can get a little bit long-winded because I want to give you 100% of my decision-making process, 100% of my attention, my time, and my focus. So I'm not just going to fire from the gut. I'm not just going to answer questions because they sound nice. I'm going to go through my full-blown process, doing everything I can to put you in a position to be right. So without further ado, Tanner, if I'm not mistaken, I believe the first question was for you, not me.
Right off the top of the bat, man. We take a look
your
here.
Energy drink in.
Oh, it's ready. We're set. So Derek Devereaux. Derek, what's up, man? Good morning, gents. This question is for me and me only. Going against a certain fantasy football expert today. Oh, would you play Monangai or Keenan? Full PPR.
Dive on in there, Tanner.
Let's do it. Let's get into it, man. Let's get into it here. Kick Mikey out. Let's put it up here. All right. Let's that's not. Yeah, that's me. Let's see here.
Oh, you're going week winner on him. I like it.
Oh, we are going week winner on. Hey, I got to remove you. Add me in.
All right.
Give me a minute. Give me a second. I got to adjust because my screen's different than yours. So
yeah, that's fair. That's fair. You're all good. If you want, I can drive. I can totally share my screen and go wherever you want me to go. You can tell me. But while Tanner's getting this pulled up for you guys, I do have free money essentially for anybody who's interested. If you guys have ever played Prize Picks or Pick'em, if you head over to drafters.com, they have Pick'em games. They also have weekly best ball draft, not best ball, but weekly DFS drafts that you can do against the competition. It's different than your typical DFS format because you literally draft a team. So if I have Christian McCaffrey, you can't have Christian McCaffrey. Drafters.com, if you enter promo code BBFF, you're going to get a 100% match on your first deposit all the way up to $100. It's like getting a free $100 bill that you get to play Pick'em with, get to play DFS with. It's free money. I highly recommend it to anybody. You don't have to deposit $100, but that's the max that you can do for the 100% match. So
that's what you get your match for. So you put 50 in, you get 50 back. So yeah,
you got it. So you might as well I would do the 100 if it was me personally, but I get that might not be the case. Anyway, looks like you're all set.
All right, let's get into it here. We got Monangai or Keenan today here. And now look, how I run the week winner might be different from how Mikey runs the week winner because it is data that you're looking at, and we're all bringing our best effort of what do we think, right? We're not going to think the same. I know we won't. So let's take a look at it here. Kyle Monangai. Monangai? Is that right?
That's how I say it. I don't know if it's right. That's how I say it. You're also
talking
right
to me.
Who got scolded for, I used to say Amon-Ra St. Brown, and man, the folks of YouTube did not like that. So I'm not the best.
That's right. I forgot about that. All right. So what do we expect here? What I'm looking for here is respecting Kyle to get 9 to 13 points on 12 to 16 touches, 55, 75 scrimmage yards, minimal receiver work, 0-1 TD, high-end RB3 flex, and a low-scoring tough matchup with some ankle-related risk here. The floor, 4 to 6 here, because D Swift is healthy as far as I'm aware. He's playing. He should get that some workload here. The ceiling, though, 16 to 18. If he pushes 18 plus touches, control the goal line again. Yep, that's right. He is a big goal line guy and scores in a rare Bears trip inside the 10. That's right. Let's see here. Game environment here. I'm viewing this just kind of as you guys are as well. So game environment here. Bears entering the uncomfortable 6-point road underdog. Just kind of wild to me, but 6-point road underdog with a low projected team total of 19 points. 9th fewest, that's fine. Uncomfortable spread suggests a potential pass heavy approach. Yep, should be a pass heavy approach. Let's see here. Kyle, let's see here. This played 45% of the snaps, 53.7 behind the backfield. Both guys saw RB1 volume. Yep, Swift handled 19. Monangai handled 22. The 0-1 or 1 target versus 2 targets, so they're not really utilizing the running backs too much in the passing game. Both backs received 1 opportunity inside the 5-yard line. Both cashed in for the touchdowns. We're going to pop down here to matchup. This is where I like to look at here to kind of make more decisions. Tough matchup for RBs, holding the 13th fewest, 10th fewest, 8th fewest, 10th fewest, 5th fewest. That's I mean, they're a good defense. Don't get me wrong. I've bet a lot of unders with Green Bay's defense in one. So, which, that does help. But 9 RBs in 12 games were able to reach 10 plus PPR points, 15 of them handling 10 plus touches, 6 of them Gibbs, Judkins, Williams, Dowdle, Singletary, Tracy scored 15 plus against the Pack. I like seeing the Dowdle and the Singletary in this list here. That does help me a little bit. One of them, Dowdle, scored 20 plus points. That was this big blow up, I believe, that week too. Having Singletary in that mix here is interesting. The matchup is really tough here for Kyle. And then we'll go to Keenan. Let's take a look. God dang.
He should be in the I dropped him. Yep.
There he is. Gross category.
Yeah.
Let's take a look.
Brutal.
It is brutal. It has been brutal.
Yep.
Keenan, 10 to 13 PPR points. Okay. So the floor is 6 to 8. The Chargers lead the run heavy to protect Herbert, which, because this could be a thing too.
Mm-hmm.
Where you at?
What happened? It freeze up on you?
No. I'm looking up Herbert's update.
Oh, I think he should be good to go. It sounds like they're preparing.
I think he's playing.
Yeah, they're preparing for him to start, from what I understand.
Yeah, okay, yeah. That's what I'm seeing too. Okay. I don't see anything him being out, so this is okay. Okay, 4 to 6 to 8. The Chargers lead a run heavy, ceiling 17 to 19. That's the thing. They're not getting those up to 17, 19 for it here. But if he pushes double digit targets, racks up the chain. Yep. Sorry guys. I'm trying to take too much time here. The Chargers game environment, slim 3-point home underdogs, low projected team total, fifth fewest among all 28 teams, subpar over under 40.5, going against the Eagles and the Eagles defense. Both teams sporting bottom 13 projected totals, and it is definitely going to be a low scoring game in this one here. Keenan receiving 22.9% of the total targets. He's averaging 5 on 7.6, only 4 touchdowns. Those were really early in the season. He scored 17 to 20 PPR points each of the first three games. 9.3 targets per game during that time. That's insane. But yeah, this part here. This is what I was looking for. 7 of the last 9 games, averaging 10 PPR points and 7 targets during that time. Big drop there. I mean, honestly, as a guy that's bet Lad Conky a bunch lately, that's not even been profitable by any means, let alone Keenan. Keenan being in range here. Look at that floor. 7 plus. That's all it is. 7 plus, 75%. His ceiling's 18. Your best case at 20 doesn't happen. And I know that throwing arm for Herbert isn't on the throwing hand, which does help. But here's the thing, the matchup against the Eagles, and this is where I'm very cautious about where I lean here. Mediocre matchup. 15th most catches, 10th most yards, but 3rd fewest touchdowns, 16th fewest PPR points. 12 receivers in 12 games, 10 plus. But CD, Puka, Ekbuka, Sutton, Wandale, Addison, and Pickens. I'm pretty sure Pickens was during that insane when CD was kind of, that was recent. Pickens in Dallas, though, you gotta honestly, that's just a shootout potential, anyways. So they're gonna go at him. Addison, though, is very interesting to see him in the list here at 17 plus PPR points against the Eagles, and he did that there. But the thing is, I'm pretty sure Quentin Johnston's in. Pretty sure Ladd McConkey's in.
Yeah, they're all
honestly
healthy.
Keenan's kind of been washed out of the offense in a way, which is a shame. And I don't see enough evidence here for me in the data wise to kind of pick him. Look, it is the Eagles. He could find some light here. They should get a lot of, plenty of opportunity, but they also like to run the ball there for the Eagles too. 6 to 8 points versus, where are you at here? There it is. 9-13, 12-15 touches. So where's the floor here? 4-6. You're going against Mikey.
He said an unnamed fantasy.
Oh, my bad.
Yeah. Analyst.
My bad.
Yeah.
That's why I love the week winner, guys, because I can come over here and you can see everything that I want to see. I mean, this game's going to be emotional. I'm telling you, I love this game here. For the Bears-Packers. Bears finally good. Packers out here surviving. 43.5 versus the 42.5. I know the implied total here, 2018. The Packers defense is good. Man, call me crazy. Derek. But if I was in your shoes here, just based off what I read there on the week winner alone, I'm leaning Kyle. I'm throwing Kyle in this mix because I'm banking on a touchdown. I'm banking on him needing to be involved here in this Packers game. I know Packers defense really good. I just don't trust that. Keenan's going to get his targets in this game here. I really don't. In that matter, especially against the Eagles. I know the Eagles defense is good, but it's not, great. But Packers defense has been really good. But the Bears are going to want this, especially in Green Bay. I'm going Kyle. I'm going Kyle based off the numbers here, what I'm seeing here data wise. So hopefully it helps you out. Yeah.
I just found a button where I can do an applause. That's pretty cool.
Were you finding it?
I'm going to abuse that for sure. There's no doubt about it. So that was fun. I love finding stuff that I didn't know existed. So there you go, Derek. I hope that it does not work out. Whatever you decide there. I hope that everything goes poorly for you. So what Derek is referring to is, Derek is one of the beloved members of the Basement Brewed Fantasy Football family. And one thing we did this year is we did a pretty gigantic subscriber league where there's 4 different leagues of 12 teams each. And starting in week 15, the top 2 teams of each league are going to compete in an 8-team playoff. This is exclusively for BBFF members only. I'm currently regretting that decision to do that only because of all the work I'm going to have to do next week combining the leagues. But anyway, Derek against me in the pizza division. We got the pizza division, Buffalo Wings division, burgers division, and I think tacos division. So hope it doesn't work, Derek. Hopefully you lose. So there you go. And then also, I think it's funny that basically the people tuning into the show today, Tanner, are my opponents tuning in to ask how to defeat me in all my different leagues. So me and GQ are competing for a first round bye in a dynasty league that we are in together. He's catching me at a really good time. My team is somewhat in shambles, but we'll see. We'll see what happens.
The thing is, when you have to face an unnamed fantasy expert, you have to be a week ahead. Because if you just have to be a week ahead, that's all it is. Especially on the waiver wires, you're just picking up guys. You're looking into the future, crystal ball. Like you're just gonna be a week ahead.
We'll see what happens. I believe he's projected to win right now. It's that league I'm feeling less optimistic about. Things are I got Justin Jefferson over there. Zay Flowers hooked me up with 0.5 points last week. So we'll see what happens. Maybe we'll get
Don't worry. I one of my big leagues, I'm trying to fight for a 1 seed right now. Last week, my first week with everybody, I had Amon Ra, 0 points. Gibbs had like 7. JSN with like 3. Ended up losing.
Yeah.
Hoping another guy.
JSN, yeah, that happens.
It's like, come on. Love it. All right, we'll keep this going.
Yep. Let's go.
Scott Cove, Debo, or Pittman? Today's a big downgrade for all Colts and Jacks. Monsoon, supposedly. Let's get a Jacksonville weather update. That's why I need like a segment, like be able to like do some videos and cool things and be like, here's your weather update.
Yeah.
That's the future, guys. That's the future. It's a rainy one, man. It's a rainy one.
Yep.
There's storms all over, rain all over. Looks like it could linger for a while.
So let me share my screen here real quick. Right now, what you see is the BBFF Discord server. First thing this morning when I woke up, usually when there's something that I think is relevant that fantasy football players need to know about, I will send out an alert, a notification to members of Basement Brewed Fantasy Football. One of those things were a couple different weather announcements today. We're going to see some snow games with the Titans and Browns, the Bengals and Bills. We're going to see some snow there, but like mentioned here, on the show, Colts and Jaguars, it sounds like it's going to downpour basically all day. Before the game, during the game, after the game, it's just going to rain all day long. Ultimately, I'm more concerned about this for the kickers than I am any of the skill position players. I mean, we've actually seen quarterbacks in the past. Is that Brady? Somebody... I want to say it was Brady in the past talking about how they actually, I forgot why, but they actually prefer rain and snow games and inclement weather because the defense is just slower to react to everything. Point is, I'm not scared of Michael Pittman. I'm not scared of Jonathan Taylor. I'm going to be treating them basically as normal, perhaps using weather as my tiebreaker. Now, in this scenario, I don't think there's a tie between Michael Pittman and Deebo Samuel. So now what you're looking at is, and what Tanner was showing before, here, I'll pump it up a little bit, is the week winner. So this is the week 14 version of the week winner. This is a resource that I put together. I mentioned at the top of the show that I do 20 plus hours of meticulous research every single week. I'm telling you guys, I put every quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end, defense, and kicker under a microscope. And I put everything that I find about them in this one Google sheet every single week. So you don't got to go jump all over to different websites. You don't got to go all over the place trying to do all of your research. This isn't telling you straight up who to start. It's helping you do your own research. And when you're trying to make these decisions, all of my research is right here available for you that you can use to make some of your own decisions. If you guys like what you see today, just head over. You see it on the screen, whop.com BBFF, WHOP.com/BBFF. You're going to have two options. You can scoop up the week 14 week winner. Every single week I do this. It's just $2.99. Or I actually decided to leave my Black Friday special up. There's been a lot of people.
Oh,
yeah, it's still
up.
Yeah, there's a lot of people taking advantage of it. So I thought, hey, it seems like people are interested in this. I thought, why not just keep it up? It can't hurt anything. So $14.99. You get every single week winner for the rest of the year, including through the playoffs, by the way. I'm doing this for the wild card, super division round, conference championship, Super Bowl. So if you're playing any playoff leagues, DFS, prop bets, etc. But you're also going to get access to that Discord server that I was just showing you. Lots of people in here every Sunday morning. The start sit channel of the Discord servers usually hopping and blowing up. So we got 123 fantasy football players up in here talking ball, hanging out, helping each other dominate. And last but not least, you're going to get access. Every single month I do a jersey giveaway. I was going to do one today, but I'm going to give it one more week. Our next jersey giveaway is going to be on next week's show, next Sunday, 8 a.m. Anybody who signs up between right now and next week is going to be included in that jersey giveaway. We're going to spin a wheel, and whoever's name it lands on, they are going to win an autographed jersey of their choice. That's kind of the cool part about this, is that it's not me stumbling across a Devin Neal jersey and saying, hey, somebody gets to win this Devin Neal jersey. It's you win, you send me a list of 5 to 10 names. We go hunt down somebody from the list that you give us. Okay. So Black Friday deal, you're getting every week winner, Discord access, and the monthly jersey giveaways. The next jersey giveaway is going to be 1 week from today on the 8 a.m. show. Now, what we're looking at right now, the week 14 week winner on the left, you're going to see all the different game information for every single game. I do update this regularly. What's up, my guy? What's up? Everybody say welcome. You probably can't even see.
There he is.
He wanted to bring me my coffee, so I was like, hey man, you want to hop on the show? You can hop on here. He's a budding fantasy football analyst, so get to know him now because he's going to be ready to roll. So thanks for bringing my coffee, buddy. All right. Thanks, dude. On the left side, all of the game information. I update this regularly throughout the week. You're going to see, all the different games, the over-unders, the spread, the implied point totals for each. This should help you make fantasy football decisions. I can elaborate on how, but for the sake of time, we'll just kind of get into the mix here. And Michael Pittman, Michael Pittman is somebody that I entered this week super bullish on after I conducted my analysis, my research of what to expect from Michael Pittman. So I have him dropped in the green column. Okay. Green is a good spot to be for players on this list, right? You want to be either, if you're in the blue column, that means all of the data suggests there's a potential eruption, potential explosion coming. Okay. Green column, I mean, you could read what they stand for, right? I feel good about having this player in my lineup, right? These aren't rankings. This is just a gut check on how to feel about having a player in your lineup this week in particular. Yellow column, there's nothing that's particularly scary or exciting about having that player in your lineup. Orange column, I do not want this player in my lineup if I don't have to. Red column, well, you can read what that column is all about. Now, you'll see Michael Pittman here is in the green column with a blue dot. That means he's on the verge of being promoted into column A. That's a good thing, right? These are typically players you definitely want in your lineup. I understand the rain and the weather concerns, but man, there's a lot to like about Michael Pittman this week. Tanner, if you have a second while I'm going through this, let me know if the over-under on the Colts-Jaguars game has changed significantly. When I wrote this, it was 48.5. So if it's still hovering around there, I'm going to feel pretty good about this.
Colts Jags. 40, it's up to 46. 45 and a half, 46. So, yeah.
It came down. So it did come down. And that's why I like to use things like Vegas lines, over-unders, spreads, because a lot of what you can deduce about the game is baked into an over-under and a spread, right? This game was 48.5, but as weather updates came about, now the spread or the over-under dropped to 46.5. It's baked into that number that there's going to be some weather issues here. Now, however,
we are seeing, I am seeing some 44s now popping in. So
for Colts Jaguars,
45s and 44 and a half there on a few sports books. So
got it. That's good to know, because what I was just about to say is over the last 5 years that I've been doing this, I've found that the mid line is 44.5. That's like average for an over under. Okay. So anything above 44.5 is usually expected to be a higher scoring game. Anything under 44.5 is a subpar below average type of game. So if we're getting down to 44.5, that's still at worst average. And then you got the Colts and Jaguars, who are in, this at one point, this game was looking like it was going to be a shootout. Both teams are competing for first place in that division. There's a lot on the line here. They're going to put their best foot forward, theoretically. Michael Pittman's having a pretty solid year to begin with, right? He's averaging 13 plus PPR points per game. He's getting more than 22% of the targets. He's getting you at least 7 PPR points 75% of the time. He's getting you 19 plus PPR points 25% of the time. I'm treating him as a high-end wide receiver 2 with wide receiver 1 upside in a possible shootout, in a friendly matchup. That friendly matchup is against the Jaguars, who are allowing the 11th most catches, 16th most yards, 12th most touchdowns, and 13th most PPR points per game to opposing wide receivers. 13 different wide receivers in 12 games have been able to reach 11 plus PPR points against the Jaguars, 8 of which have been able to get to 15 plus PPR points. All in all, feeling really good about the matchup for Michael Pittman, the offensive trends for Michael Pittman. This is a good week to fire up Michael Pittman. The only red flag, as mentioned many times, is the possible weather. Now, is that enough to knock him below Deebo Samuel? Let's talk about it. Okay. Deebo Samuel, where are you? What game is it? Who does Washington play? Oh, they play Minnesota. Yeah, here we go.
Yeah.
I was thinking last week when they were Sunday Night Football. That's why I was looking towards the bottom of it. Deebo Samuel, for starters, the game environment is fine. There's nothing that's particularly exciting about the game environment. Vikings Commanders projected to be a, at best, mediocre scoring game. Now, the Commanders did get Jaden Daniels back, and when that happened, they went from underdogs to favorites. So there is optimism here for the offense as a whole. Deebo Samuel himself, he's averaging 13.8 PPR points per game. He's getting 24.6% of the targets in Washington. However, it's worth noting that Terry McLaurin came back last week, and he came back in a huge way with 14 targets, albeit those targets came from Marcus Mariota, not Jaden Daniels. But let's not pretend that the Jaden Daniels, Terry McLaurin chemistry is something that hasn't been successful in the past, right? We saw last year a revival almost for Terry McLaurin. So tiny Deebo Samuel himself, he's getting you 7+ PPR points about 75% of the time. I think that was identical to Michael Pittman. 25% of the time, he's getting you at least 20 points. What we don't like here is the matchup, right? The Vikings are actually a really one of the toughest matchups in all of fantasy footballs for wide receivers. They are holding wide receivers to the fewest catches, 5th fewest yards, 8th fewest touchdowns, and ultimately the 2nd fewest PPR points per game. There have only been 10 wide receivers in 12 games that have been able to reach even just 10 PPR points against the Vikings. That is really tough. If that's less than one wide receiver per game that's getting to 10 PPR points, right? You want more than 10. You want 15 at least, usually 13 at least. And just 10 in 12 games have been able to get to 10. Now, when they're getting there, a good portion of them 7 out of those 10 have at least been able to get to 15. So there's some optimism for upside, which is great. But ultimately, for me personally, when you think about that Jaguars Colts game, the weather from what I've seen, and I recommend people follow Kevin Roth on Twitter. He's a fantasy football guy, but he's a weather expert. That's his niche. That's what he does. From what I was seeing from him, at least earlier, was that the weather is going to be sloppy and it's going to be a mess, but there's not much of a real reason to expect the game to dial down passing attempts and passing volume in general. I don't know, man. You look at that matchup, what's at stake for the Colts? I'd have a really tough time benching Michael Pittman here, personally.
Yeah. I'm really tough time for myself too.
Yeah, and Minnesota's so tough on wide receivers. I'm going Michael Pittman here still, even with the monsoon. What do we got next?
Sorry. I was writing down here. I'm trying to find we have a lot of comments here. I was trying to find some common players for you to review, maybe ahead of time. That would hit a lot. Let's take a look at Christian Watson for this matchup here against the Bears. Let's do that. Let's pivot a little bit. Let's go to Christian Watson and let's check him out first. Because there's so far a bunch of people that are looking at him.
Awesome. That's good to know. So the big thing with Christian Watson or Packers pass catchers in general this week, Jaden Reed is coming back. Knocked out a week 2, hasn't played since. He's coming back. That is big news for the Packers offense in real life for sure. He's arguably the most versatile. He is the most versatile wide receiver that the Packers have. Now the thing is, moving forward, that's going to complicate things from a fantasy football standpoint. In this week in particular, it's not something that I'm particularly worried about for Christian Watson, right? It's his first game since week 2. Packers training staff historically has always been very, very conservative with their players. If Jaden Reed even plays, which he should, they activated him. But if he even plays, is he going to be limited with his snap counts? He also plays a very different position almost than Christian Watson does. That Matt LaFleur is very specific about using Jaden Reed in the slot. If it's not a 3 wide receiver set, Jaden Reed's not even on the field. So it's all systems go for Christian Watson. It's business as usual for Christian Watson here in week 14. There's a lot to like about his setup this week. Now, for starters, the Packers entered this week as 6-point favorites. They had a really strong projected team total of 25.5 points, which at the time was the 4th highest among all 28 teams playing this week. That tells us that we should expect plenty of touchdown opportunities for the Green Bay Packers. And Christian Watson of late has been running as the team's wide receiver 1. Take a team that's expected to score touchdowns, combine that with their wide receiver 1, that's a good start when we're analyzing a player and what to expect from them. But obviously that's just the beginning. So let's dive into the details here. Now, Christian Watson is averaging 12.6 PPR points per game. He's seeing about 19% of the targets. He's averaging, well, if you guys ever want to dig into this deep into the weeds, you can always scoop up the week winner. For the sake of time, we'll skip the individual numbers like catches, targets, etc. But he's scoring the floor. He scored about 6 to 10 PPR points half the time. Ceiling, he scored 12.5 points in week 8, 18 plus in week 13, and 20 plus in week 11. So somewhat of a lower floor, higher ceiling. Christian Watson has always been that guy. He's always been boomer bust, low floor, high ceiling. And that's how we're treating him this week. Boomer bust, high end wide receiver 3. But I do think he has a good chance of landing on the boom side than the bust side when you look at his matchup. Okay. For starters, like I mentioned, the Packers have that high implied total, right? Touchdowns have to come from somewhere. Christian Watson's usually a pretty good bet for that, especially with Tucker Kraft out of the picture. And then you got the matchup, right? After 12 games, the Bears present a terrific matchup for wide receivers. They are holding wide receivers to the 13th fewest catches, but allowing the 13th most yards, 3rd most touchdowns, and 10th most PPR points per game. What's funny about that is that this basically describes Christian Watson. 13th fewest catches. Christian Watson's not a high volume guy. He never has been. He's more of that 3, 4, 5 catch that are big plays and touchdowns. That's exactly what the Bears defense has allowed to wide receivers this year. They're limiting catches, but they're giving up plenty of efficiency, plenty of yards, plenty of touchdowns. Remember when I said the Vikings, only 10 wide receivers in 12 games scored 10 plus PPR points against the Vikings. 17 wide receivers in 12 games have scored 10 plus points against the Bears. Okay. So they're giving up at least PPR points more often than not to wide receivers. Of those 17 have been able to get to 17 points. 4 of them have been able to get points. 3 of them have been able to get to 31. So these guys are allowing both 4 games and 6 games. They're allowing plenty of 10 plus point games, plenty of 31 plus point games. This is a good spot to fire up Christian Watson. I feel good about Christian Watson. I currently have him projected for 14 to 18 PPR points. The floor is about 7 to 9. The ceiling is going to be about 21 to 24. I would feel good about having Christian Watson in my lineup this week.
By the way, one of my bets, little preview, one of my bets today here on the Lock It In show that I do on the Record Sports Hub. I got Watson on his over yards. I believe, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I liked the number, and I think he's going to be involved here in that Bears game. So
what was the over? Do you remember?
I don't remember. I think it was like 50. I thought it was like 53 or something like that.
Oh,
in it.
Yeah, I got him projected for 70 to 85 yards. So
Yeah.
I like that.
You know, Mikey, you're breaking up a little bit. Here, let's catch back up.
Hold up. You got me? No?
Yeah, Anna.
What's happening?
The internet's so cold up there, it's freezing.
Yes. Can you not? You can't hear me?
I can hear you now.
Well, what the heck? All right. Sorry about that. I don't know. I can't help with that. I mean, that's I don't know. Are we good?
Yeah. You're a little better. I think so. I can hear you at least, so we should be okay.
All right. I don't know if you heard the last thing I said was I have Christian Watson projected for 70 to 95 yards. So I like the over on that as well in the 50s.
Good deal. Oh no.
To freeze again?
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know whether that's the sort of thing, but that could be what's happening.
Very well could be. I forgot you guys were getting some snow up there.
Let me know if it happens again. Worst case, I can just like go on my phone. I guess.
Yeah, you're pretty blurry.
Blurry?
Well, it's freezing. Like you're in and out, and your screen's all blurry. Your connection isn't good. So that's it. Thanks, Scott. Appreciate it. We'll keep going, guys. Here, there was another big name here that was dropped while Mikey kind of figures out. Blow it up here. Hang on. Fix my screen. Could always just go to my other screen, I guess, but it's all right. Let's pop over here. The next big name I was seeing here between all you guys are wanting to know, surprisingly enough, is Pierce, Alec Pierce, for the Colts here, and I'll break it down here while he tries to get resituated. Oh, if I can spell it right. Where you at, Pierce? You haven't been a bad play. There it is. All right, so look at Alec Pierce here. I got a few guys here on this one here in the comments across multiple platforms. So if you don't see them on YouTube, that's why. So what you're seeing here, a projected 11-15 PPR points, 68 targets, 3 to 5 catches, strong per catch yardage, and a live TD upside in a friendly wide receiver match. Oh, let's see. You good? Better?
I don't know. I don't know what.
Much better.
Dude, it just straight up kicked me out. It was like something went
Did
wrong.
it?
Please make sure you're connected to the internet. I'm like, I think I'm connected to the internet. So. All right then.
Yeah.
Anyway,
No, you're good. I was just starting Alec Pierce here. What's the next most requested here across platforms? Alec Pierce.
Oh yeah, great year he's having, man. Great year.
Oh, insane! It's amazing.
I was able to fire. I did just. Oh shoot! Sorry if I just kicked you out.
No, you're good.
Okay. Yeah, I have it pulled up. I just don't. I don't want to step on your toes if you're in the middle of something.
No, I just start. I'm gonna let you take. I'd rather you take over this here for this here. Let me blow it back up for you.
All right. Let me know if it starts crashing again. I don't know what the deal is.
Okay.
All right. You said Alec Pierce?
Pierce. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, so we know the story here with this, right? It's all about the weather. If weather wasn't a thing, I'd feel really good about Alec Pierce in general pre-weather, right? He's having a really good year. He's getting 11 plus PPR points per game. He's getting 19% of the targets, which is really solid. He's getting about 7 PPR points about 75% of the time. He's getting you 17 plus points about 25% of the time. He is routinely on this on the touchdown regression cheat sheet. So if you guys can see here, this is a cheat sheet I put together every week that shows you math. This isn't gut or opinion. This is math. Okay. This is mathematically showing you which players are mathematically more likely to score touchdowns based on regression, the mathematical term regression, right? So it takes historical data, tells us where a player should be with their touchdowns, and shows us how far off they are from that mean. Okay. So Alec Pierce is routinely on this list. He's a guy that remains a positive touchdown regression candidate. We talked about the matchup earlier because we talked about the Jaguars. There's just a lot to like about Colts pass catchers. Michael Pittman, Alec Pierce, Tyler Warren, who, I mean, we haven't even talked about him, but he's like, there's only 2 names in the blue bucket this week. Tyler Warren is one of them. Here's what I will say, though. Alec Pierce, the role that he plays for the Colts is that big play type of, he's not a possession wide receiver. He's that big play type of wide receiver. So if there's anybody that the weather could make an impact, Alec Pierce is that guy. Okay. Coming into the week, I had Alec Pierce projected for 11 to 15 PPR points. I would downgrade that a little bit with the weather. Again, don't go crazy with the weather, but if you think about the role that he plays and the impact that the weather can have, if there's one guy in that offense that could take a hit because of the weather, it is Alec Pierce. Fewer deep shots, more possession targets, etc. So ultimately, I'm still more optimistic about Alec Pierce than not, but there is a little bit of a downgrade there with the weather.
Okay. Yeah, Pierce out of the way. The next most requested, believe it or not, Mikey, Bam Knight.
Oh, man. Dude, Bam Knight, I feel bad because every time I hear his name, I just get depressed that Trey Benson is not a thing. Like,
It's
I don't know.
not-
He must have suffered a setback in
He had
practice.
to have.
Like, to go from ramping up to all of a sudden not practicing anymore, and now it sounds like he's going to miss the year. It's so sad. Bam Knight, this is not a good spot to use Bam Knight. I would not feel good about having him in my lineup at all. Starting with the game environment, the Cardinals are, first of all, they're desperate 8-point home underdogs against the Rams. That's a wide enough spread. 8 points is a wide enough spread to suggest, hey, these guys they're going to be playing from behind. It's negative game script. It's going to be a pass heavy game script, if you will. It's the type of game script, type of game environment that the Cardinals fall behind and suddenly Jacoby Brissett's throwing the ball 45 times again, because they have to try and catch up with the Rams. Bam Knight gets scripted out of it. It could be the sort of thing where Michael Carter comes in and racks up catches because it is a pass heavy game script. It's not a good start to the equation for Bam Knight. Then you got the projected team total. Cardinals expected to score around 20 points. That's below average. Average is usually about 22. So we're not expecting a lot of touchdown opportunities for the Cardinals. Bam Knight himself has just been, he's filling in admirably, but he's exactly who we thought he was. He's just a guy that's out there racking up as many fantasy points as he can simply because he's getting volume. It's not like he's, lighting the world on fire by any means. He's absolutely a serviceable RB3/flex, but he's not an exciting RB3/flex by any means. He's averaging 11.1 PPR points per game. He's seeing about 47% of the backfield touches. Now, he is on a little bit of a heater over the last couple games. He's scoring 13 plus PPR points in all of them. He's averaging 15.5 PPR points per game over the last 3. Now, teeny tiny sample size. We can't just assume that he's all of a sudden a 15 plus PPR point guy, but he is hot, right? And sometimes you want to ride the guy that's hot, but I hope that one doesn't get recorded. Anyway. Oh man. Anyway. And then last but not least, you got the matchup, and it's brutal. The Rams are absolutely terrifying for running backs to go against. They're allowing the 13th most catches to running backs, but that's more of a Michael Carter stat than a Bam Knight stat. 12th most RB receiving yards. That's more Michael Carter than Bam Knight. And other than that, they're holding running backs to the 11th fewest rushing yards, 2nd fewest rushing touchdowns, 4th fewest PPR points per game, fewest PPR points per touch. And as you can see here, they are allowing 0.69 PPR points per game. Oh, I saw your eyes light up.
Of course, I just clicked away from that,
0.69 PPR points per game.
Nice.
We're gonna have some sounds, guys. Okay.
So nerdy. I love it. Rams. There have been just 7 running backs in 12 games this year that have been able to reach 10 plus PPR points. That's it. 7 to get to 10. Again, you want more than 10, and there have only been 7 in 12 games. By the way, 13 different running backs have handled 11 plus touches against the Rams. Only 7 of them have been able to get to 10. That's how tough they are. Only 4 of them have been able to get to 15, 3 of which have been able to get to 18. There's nothing to like about Bam Knight's situation this week. The only thing you can lean on is that he's playing well. He's on a little bit of a heater. Other than that, the game environment is brutal. The matchup is brutal. I would be looking for other options if possible. I don't know what other options we've seen in the comments, but Bam Knight is not somebody I would want in there if I can avoid it.
I will say here, I was running through. There's Chris Rodriguez and Jordan Addison as one from Jonathan. I was asking about Bam Knight.
Yeah.
There was also.
I'll tell you right now, I'd feel much better about Chris Rodriguez than Bam Knight. He's in a much, much better situation than Bam Knight is this week.
I'd agree there.
This week.
Woody or Bam for that one
Woody.
from
Woody.
Michael.
Yep, Woody for sure. Yep.
There's one more. All right. But yeah. Essentially, that's what you got there. The next, sticking with that game here. I'm sure you're expecting this, but Michael Wilson is also a much requested guy and matchup. Yeah. No Dortch, no Harrison,
no Greg Dortch, no Marvin Harrison, no Xavier Weaver, who's their wide receiver. I jokingly tweeted on the tweeter or whatever it's called now, X, whatever it's called. Jacoby Brissett is going to throw the ball 45 or more times in this game. Trey McBride and Michael Wilson are going to get 20 targets apiece. There's nobody left. It's Marvin Harrison's out. Greg Dortch is on IR. I think, if I saw that right. Xavier Weaver is out. And I was like, even he was a long shot dart throw. Michael Wilson is basically a must start. He's a must start. The Rams we talked about the pass heavy game script, right? The Cardinals are expected to be playing from behind. It's a 10-point spread now. Jacoby Brissett's going to throw this ball 30 plus times. The Rams are allowing the 14th most PPR points per game to wide receivers. We're not expecting touchdowns from Michael Wilson, but dude, we saw it a few weeks ago, right? Marvin Harrison missed 2 games with the appendectomy. The first one, Michael Wilson caught 15 of 18 targets. That's you think of a high-end wide receiver 1, that's higher than that. That's insane. The next week, 15 more targets. So this dude got 33 targets in the 2 games that he played without Marvin Harrison. There's very few wide receivers that I would start over Michael Wilson this week, which is look how far we've come.
Really?
since draft season. But Michael, if he doesn't get 20 targets this week, it's a failure for the Cardinals. It's insane. So yeah, I'd feel if you got Michael Wilson, find a way to get him into your lineup.
Okay. Adonai Mitchell was a big one too in the comments. For his matchup with Miami. Yeah, he's a guy that I've got into my lineup pretty frequently this week. Now again, Jets. I'm sorry. I was thinking Jets. I was thinking Colts. So I was thinking of that Colts monsoon game, but AD is a Jet, baby. He's a Jet. Right.
This game is very meh for fantasy purposes. There's not too much to be excited about. The Jets are 2-point underdogs, low projected team total of 19.5 points. The matchup is tough. The Dolphins are a subpar matchup for wide receivers. They are giving up the 12th most touchdowns. That's not particularly exciting considering the Jets aren't expected to score too many of those. But the Dolphins are allowing the 12th most touchdowns to wide receivers. Other than that, they're holding them to the 11th fewest catches, 4th fewest yards, 9th fewest PPR points per game. 12 wide receivers in 12 games have been able to get to 10. Just 5 of them have been able to get to 15. There's nothing that's exciting about the matchup, but there is plenty that's exciting about AD Mitchell in the Jets offense and how they are treating him with Garrett Wilson out of the way for the time being. He's played 85 and 86% of the snaps over the last 2 games. Now, he only managed 6.2 PPR points in week 12, but he saw 7 targets. Okay, so that was an encouraging sign. But then last week, we saw it finally hit, right? 12 targets. That's a really good sign for AD Mitchell forward. He caught 8 of them for 102 yards, 1 touchdown, 24.2 PPR points. He has 25 targets in just 3 games with the Jets. He's already functioning as a top 2 wide receiver. He's a rapidly rising wide receiver 4/flex, and that might be too low. Ultimately, I feel pretty good about having AD Mitchell in a lineup. I have him projected for about 11 to 15 PPR points. I would say it's one of those where I'm not forcing him into any lineups the way that I would force Michael Wilson into a lineup, but I'm also not going out of my way to avoid him like I would avoid Bam Knight. So I feel just kind of like on the fence about AD Mitchell, but I'm probably more optimistic than not about putting him in my lineup this week.
Okay. Jacoby Myers, going back to that Jags Colts matchup.
Jacoby Myers. I mean, man, I really wish the weather wasn't even a thing, because this game was set up to be one of the best fantasy football games of the week.
I'm still I don't recall, Mikey, this year yet, like with weather and stuff being an issue for fantasy plays.
Yeah, I'll say one thing I've learned over the last couple of years of doing this full time is that weather tends to be, people overreact to weather in fantasy football big time. I'm not saying it's not warranted. Sometimes it certainly is. There's definitely decisions you need to make on it, but people have a tendency to really overreact about the weather. Now, the over under on this has dropped, right? From 48.5. You said you've seen it as low as 44.5. That's significant.
44.
44. Yeah. So that is a big drop. That's noteworthy. That's not nothing. That's not something I should ignore as much as I want to ignore it. That's not something I should ignore. Now, again, that's still average at worst. Okay. Like you look at some of these other games, like the Titans Browns. Okay. We're talking 33.5 over under 42.5, 41.5, 43, 40, 40. Right. So like, even if you drop the Colts here, I had them at 45.5 yesterday. Even if you drop that here, they're still in the green. It's still mediocre at worst. So it's like, yes, the weather matters, but it's not making the game one that you need to avoid entirely. I think that's the key takeaway here, is that like, it matters, temper your expectations, but you don't need to avoid this game in fantasy football. Okay. The kickers, I wouldn't feel good about. Cam Little, I don't even know who's kicking for the Colts now. They released Blake.
They released yeah, that's right, because they released Magley.
So. Yeah, so that I would steer away from. But the skill position players, I wouldn't be particularly worried about it. I mean, Jacoby Myers himself, it didn't take too long for him to get acclimated with that offense, essentially emerge as the wide receiver one. Like he's already playing better in that offense than Brian Thomas has this year. He's over his last 3 games with Jacksonville. He's averaging dang near 16 PPR points per game. He scored 11 points in week 11, 15 points in week 12, 21 points in week 13. So he's just getting better and better and better every single week. He's getting exactly 6 targets in each of the last 3 games. He's playing 92% of the snaps. He's locked in. He's locked in that offense. He's at worst a top 2 wide receiver in Trevor Lawrence offense. Right now, you could argue he's the wide receiver 1 in Jacksonville. I mean, I love Brian Thomas, but this year, I mean, talk about a sophomore slump, man. It's been bad for Brian Thomas. Entering this week, I was treating Jacoby Myers as a locked-in wide receiver 2 with genuine wide receiver 1 upside because of A, the possible shootout, but B, his matchup is great too. The Colts present a terrific matchup for wide receivers. They are holding wide receivers with the 14th fewest touchdowns, but think about what that means. 14th fewest, 14 out of 32. That's very mediocre. It's not like there's this shut down defense by any means. They're just mediocre at best. Other than that, they're actually giving up the 2nd most catches, 6th most yards, and ultimately the 8th most PPR points per game to opposing wide receivers. 17 wide receivers in 12 games have been able to get to 10 of which have been able to get to 15, right? So almost one every single game is getting to 15 plus PPR points. I'm not scared of putting Jacoby Myers in my fantasy lineup this week. Prior to the monsoon news, I had him projected for 14 to 18 PPR points. I think at worst, I would drop that to 12 to 16. I would have to run it through my model, which I'm not going to do right now for the sake of time. But at worst, that number would land 12 to 16, 13 to 17. So I'd still feel good about getting Jacoby Myers in there, especially if you think about his role as an offensive player. It's I'm not going to say it's like low ADOT, but it's shorter. It's not like he buttering his bread on deep routes every single time. Like he can do the short stuff.
Okay. Devin Neal.
Devin Neal, I was expecting to get a lot of questions. I don't know if any of you out there are in. I don't want to make anybody angry. I don't know if a lot of you out there are in Facebook groups, like free fantasy football Facebook groups. If you are, please get out of them. They are like the stuff that's posted in there are, oh my gosh, I just can't. I can't with them. Somebody posted in one of the Facebook groups recently. It was like, and if anybody's wondering why I'm in them, just to be candid, it's an easy way for me to start conversations with people that might be interested in my content. I mean, I hope that doesn't make me sound selfish, but I'm trying to build a business here, right? But somebody posted like, oh, last week everybody was talking about Devin Neal. Is it done? Why is nobody talking about Devin Neal this week? And it just kind of made me think of the whole like Mean Girls thing where it's like, oh, he's so last week. He's like, it's not important. He's so last week. And I was totally kidding. And then one dude slid into the comments right away. He's like, he's not so last week. Alvin Kamara's out. The Buccaneers this. And I'm like, dude, I was just trying to be funny. So then I replied with like, Devin Neal is so fetch. And then I think it started to click for some people. But anyway, people take it so seriously. Anyways, what a weird story to tell. Devin Neal. Where is he? That's game number 7 that I wrote. I have him yellow column, yellow dot. There's things that I hate about this setup for him. There's things that I like about this setup for Devin Neal. Ultimately, the game environment is not a great one. The Saints are desperate 8-point underdogs against the Buccaneers. We talked about this with who? Oh, the Cardinals. Mm-hmm. That presents a pass-heavy game script, right? If the Buccaneers jump on the Saints, they have to abandon the run. They have to put the ball in the air. That's not necessarily a good thing. It's usually a bad thing for running backs. Now, Devin Neal has shown that he can be active and available in the passing game, so it's not a death sentence, right? If they fall behind, we've seen him get targets. There are some running backs in fantasy football that thrive in pass-heavy game script. Think of what Christian McCaffrey could do if the 49ers had to throw the ball 40 times, right? So it's not a death sentence for Devin Neal. It's just not necessarily the type of environment you want to look at, especially this is the bigger problem for Devin Neal is the implied projected total, right? The Saints are expected to score just 17 points. It's very low, subpar, not good. This sets up more as a game where you'd want to start the Buccaneers defense than players from the Saints in most cases. No offense, Derek, if you're still tuned in. Last week, Devin Neal put up 9.9 PPR points in his first game with Alvin Kamara. But here's the good news, right? He got 17 touches. There's no question about who's the running back in New Orleans, right? Last week, there was a little bit of uncertainty. Like we couldn't be sure that it was going to be Devin Neal fully, right? It could have been Audric Estime. It could have been Evan Hull, but there's no question any longer. They let Devin Neal be the guy. We saw him get 3 targets and 3 catches. If you'll see this, Tanner, he had 69 very nice, but scoreless scrimmage yards.
Nice.
I love that. I'm so immature. It's the funniest thing ever. Now, again, he logged 77.3% of the backfield touches. It's not a great offense to be a workhorse in, but right now he's a workhorse, and that gives you fantasy football value. At worst, he's an RB3/flex. Plenty serviceable. If anybody needs it, here's what I wrote about Devin Neal in my 2025 rookie rundown before the season started. I'm not going to dive into that here for the sake of time. You can always scoop up the week winner yourself if you want it. The matchup is interesting. Okay. Most matchups in fantasy football are like clear cut, black and white. You know what they're good at. You know what they're bad at. And that's the case here. But it's worth diving into the details of what a matchup for a running back is when they're going up against the Buccaneers. Okay. Now, on the surface, the Bucs are holding running backs to the 4th fewest touches, but they're allowing the 10th most scrimmage yards, 11th most touchdowns, 9th most PPR points per game, and 2nd most PPR points per touch. Running backs are getting 1.06 PPR points every time they touch the ball against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, right? And that's all despite holding running backs to the 4th fewest touches. So they are giving up a ton of efficiency, a ton of production to running backs. It's just running backs don't touch the ball against them. And that's usually a product of game environment. Now, Where things get interesting for the Bucks is that they bleed production in the running back receiving game. Okay, they're giving up the 11th most running back catches, the most running back receiving yards, and the second most running back receiving touchdowns. But they're really tough on running backs on the ground. They're limiting them to the 6th fewest rushing yards, 16th fewest rushing touchdowns. 11 different running backs in 12 games have scored 11 plus PPR points against the Bucks, but if you remove the receiving statistics, which you don't need to do for Devin Neal, right? We've seen him be active in the passing game, but it's interesting that move running back receiving statistics, that number drops to just 5. It goes from 11 to 5 running backs that have been able to get to 11 PPR points against Tampa Bay. 9 in 12 games have been able to get to 15, but that number drops to just 2 when you get rid of the receiving stats. 5 running backs have been able to get to 20. That number drops to just 2 if you remove receiving stats. So Devin Neal is very roller coaster for Devin Neal this week. From a rushing standpoint, we're not expecting much. From a touchdown standpoint, we're not expecting much. The key for Devin Neal is that he's going to basically need to be active in the passing game to stay afloat in fantasy football. Ultimately, I have him projected for about 10 to 13 PPR points this week. The floor is low. We're talking 6 to 8 PPR points. The ceiling could get up to about 14 to 17 if he can stay active in the passing game and rack up catches. So I would not feel any kind of good or great about having Devin Neal in my lineup. I'll tell you that I have about 20 leagues, and I have Devin Neal in most of them. Most of them, I have Devin Neal on the bench this week. Now, of course, you got to keep in mind alternatives, right? I'm not going to play him over Quinshon Judkins, for example, but I will say he's on the bench more often than not for me personally. But if you're in a pinch and you need a running back, you could do a lot worse than Devin Neal this week.
Okay. Now, Mikey, I got to probably hop off here. Actually, my ride just moved up to 30 minutes earlier, but
okay.
What's our top streamers this week here? Defense and kickers. What are we looking at streamers wise?
Yeah, so defenses and kickers. So what Tanner's referring to, guys, in the week winner, I have a tab here down at the bottom, streamers and stashes tab, where you can see the best defenses for the week. The best kickers, I won't dig into the details here, but I've been working on this since week 1 of last year, trying to identify kickers that will score at least 11 plus PPR fantasy points. They're not going to be catching passes out here, but 11 plus fantasy points in their upcoming game. We've definitely found some trends since week 1 of last year that help us make that identification. Again, I'm not going to dig into the details. Candidly, that wouldn't really be fair to the people who pay for this access. But streamers, ultimately, I'll give you, basically you want to look for these blue boxes, right? So you want to look at Jake. Well, you can't do Jake Bates anymore. You also can't do Brandon Aubrey, but if Harrison Butker is available, that would be my top kicker to scoop up. Kaimi Fairbairn is a good kicker option. Tyler Loop, Will Lutz. Look at the blue boxes and the green boxes. That's what you're aiming at. Defenses, these are the top defenses of the week. Tight ends, man, if Dalton Kincaid stays healthy, he's so risky with the injury, but man, if he stays healthy, this week sets up beautifully for him. Quarterback streamers you can scoop up. Running backs that you want to stash on your bench that could become league winners if the guy in front of them goes down. And then wide receivers that you want to scoop up or keep an eye on. So hopefully that helps.
There you go. Appreciate that. All right, Mikey, I'm going to let you do your thing here. I think we've hit majority of the comments or the big players. That way your comments should go hopefully a little quicker. I mean, there's some good situations out there still. So, but I do got to jump if you're good.
It, man. I'll stick. Yeah. Anybody watching, I'll stick around for a little bit. I'll go through the comments and I'll try and knock out some of these specific questions. Candidly, as I'm scrolling through here, there's no chance I'm going to be able to get to all of these. I'm not even close.
But that's why I was trying this format of like, hey, let's try to hit some of these, a lot of players, they're being requested.
And I definitely like that, right? Because here's what's going to happen. We're going to answer 1 out of every 10. Just it's impossible to get to all of them. But Yeah, so I'll go through as many of these as I can, but like we mentioned, if anybody just wants to scoop up the week winner, just go to wap.com/bbff. All of your answers are in here, and it costs less than a bag of Doritos. Like, what are we talking about?
Legit.
Here, so,
Legit.
Tanner, dude, enjoy the game. That's gonna be a blast.
I will. Rot shot, guys. Greg, hopefully I won't have to hear about you next Sunday. So, all right, guys, we'll see you later.
Later, buddy. Thanks for hopping in here. All right.
Yep.
Then we got, so let me hop over here. We got JP. Good morning, gents. Need one wide receiver and one flex. PPF. Points per fumble. Just kidding. All right. Christian Watson, we talked about. Feel pretty good about him. Brian Thomas. Look, man, I mean, I feel good about Brian Thomas in general. Like, again, the setup is great. The game environment was supposed to be great. The matchup is great. Brian Thomas just hasn't been great. You know, he played 75% of the snaps in his first game back last week. That's a good sign, but he only had 3 targets, 28 scoreless yards. This dude is getting 7 targets per game, and he's catching half of them. 3.6 catches on 7 targets per game. It's hard to feel much optimism with Brian Thomas these days. I had him projected for about 11 to 15 coming into the week pre-monsoon. I had him projected for 11 to 15. I got Christian Watson for 14 to 18. I will say, though, I like Quinshon Judkins a lot this week, especially if you're going for floor. Like, there's nothing safe or floor about Christian Watson or Brian Thomas. Quinshon Judkins, I mean, how many games do you see that the Cleveland Browns are favored? First of all, how often are they favored? Second of all, how often are they favored by 4.5? That's a solid spread. What this tells me is that the Browns are going to be playing in positive game script or neutral game script at absolute worst. The Titans are projected to score just 14.5 points. That's super low. That's the lowest on the entire slate. All of this screams. Oh, and then, by the way, Titans allowing the 11th most PPR points per game to running backs. They're a friendly matchup. All of this screams that the Browns are going to win this game with Myles Garrett and Quinshon Judkins. So ultimately, when you think about floor and ceiling combination, I would feel so much better about Judkins than any of those other two guys. You could make a case that there's a nice ceiling for Christian Watson, but man, I'm bullish on Quinshon Judkins this week. I'd go there. All right. GQ wants to know, what could we expect from Trey Lance tomorrow if no Herbert? Everything that I'm seeing is that Justin Herbert's going to go. So candidly, I have not prepared, like I didn't write anything about Trey Lance because it's supposed to be Justin Herbert. If that changes, as I always do, I will add Trey Lance. I will send out a notification to my subscribers. I always send out an email and a Discord blast. But ultimately, the appeal with Trey Lance, you can say what you want about him as a quarterback, but he does offer that cheat code fantasy ability with his legs. He's always been a big time rushing threat. He's the type of guy that could fill in a pinch as a streamer simply because of his rushing ability. There's nothing that's scary about the Eagles as a matchup. There's nothing that's exciting about the Eagles as a matchup, but they're very mediocre when it comes to quarterbacks. Chargers ultimately not expected to score too many points. That number would drop if Justin Herbert doesn't go, so don't expect a lot of touchdowns. But here's the thing. If you have Justin Herbert, scoop up Trey Lance right now. Like, he's got to be on your bench just in case. The problem is this game is a Monday night game. So every other game will have been played by the time it's really announced. Who knows? Maybe they announce that Justin Herbert's going to go and all of this is moot. But if it's not announced today, then you have to have Trey Lance. If you have Justin Herbert, you have to have Trey Lance on your bench ready to make that switch. And if you have to make that switch, you could do worse. Trey Lance does offer that rushing ability. So I'd feel fine about that. We talked about this one. I believe I'd feel better about Woody Marks. I don't love Woody Marks this week, but I do like him better than Bam Knight. No doubt about that. Scott asks about Ryan Flournoy. He had a big game. I guess I'm not sure how to answer this one. I'm assuming you're talking about week 15, obviously. for starters, I have not started my week 15 prep yet. And second, I don't know what your alternatives are, but I will say that Flournoy, you could do worse for a bench stash because he obviously there's the big game, but even before the big game, he's been in the mix for wide receiver 3 snaps for Dallas. You could do worse for a bench stash. Not sure how to answer whether or not you should start him, but you should at least have him on your bench if you have roster space. The Hoff wants to know flex full PPR need to Godwin, Neal, and Hampton. We talked about Neal, just kind of meh. Omarion Hampton, unfortunately, is kind of meh as well. There's so much uncertainty about this game for the Chargers, unfortunately, right? We don't know about Justin Herbert. What I have seen about, if Justin Herbert plays, it's on his left hand. They're expecting him to take a lot more snaps out of shotgun. They're not expecting Justin Herbert to run as much because they don't want to risk him getting tackled and landing on his hand, making it worse. They are going to run the ball more, A, because they're getting their rookie running back, but B, they also don't want to expose Justin Herbert to getting sacked very much. So there should be a decent amount of rushing volume for the Chargers. The trick is, how is that going to be divvied up, right? Kimani Vidal has been respectable at worst, filling in for Omarion Hampton. By all accounts, it looks like Kimani Vidal should still be involved in that offense even to begin with, even with Omarion Hampton coming back, it's 50-50 split, 60-40 split. We just don't know what that's going to look like. One of the things I'm most concerned about, and I think I wrote it in here. I don't know if any of you follow Dr. Deepak Chona on Twitter or X or whatever it's called. I highly recommend it. He's a fantasy football guy, but he is a doctor. And his niche is football injuries. And he has a whole database on like how long players tend to be out, whether or not they're limited in their ability, whether or not they're limited in their snap counts when they return. Lots of really, really useful data for anybody who plays fantasy football. I can't remember his actual handle, but if you search Deepak Chona, Chona, you'll be able to find the doc. But the most concerning thing here about Omarion Hampton, not just today, but this season, is that he said on Twitter recently that most, according to the data in his database, players with that specific injury typically see a, quote, major dip in production and workload typically seen, projected to last through the end of 2025. So he's expecting Omarion Hampton to return, but not be the same Omarion Hampton that we saw earlier in the season, not be the same Omarion Hampton that we've seen earlier in the season for the rest of the year. That's the biggest concern for Omarion Hampton. And then, of course, you got the timeshare concern here. Man, I'm losing my voice. 1 minute. Man. I got a cold a couple weeks ago, and ever since then, I lose my voice really easily. Ultimately, there's a lot that we just don't know about how it's going to go for Omarion Hampton. The Eagles, there's nothing scary about the matchup. It's a very friendly matchup. They're allowing the 12th most yards, 5th most receiving yards, 8th most touchdowns, 7th most PPR points per game. Ultimately, I have Hampton projected for about 9 to 12 PPR points. There's a bigger ceiling, there's bigger upside there for Hampton than there is for Neal, right? We just know who Omarion Hampton is as a prospect and as a running back. But then you got, I almost forgot about Chris Godwin. Chris Godwin is somebody that is like, we're watching and keeping on the bench until Chris Godwin comes back. For starters, when it comes to Chris Godwin, the Bucs we talked about them being big time favorites, 8-point favorites. This game could turn a bit run heavy. It could be a Bucky Irving game as the Buccaneers are just trying to milk the clock late in the half. They might not need Baker Mayfield and Chris Godwin to do too much to secure the victory. Now, Godwin did jump from 36% of the snaps in week 12 up to 66% of the snaps. So he's ramping up successfully. He's getting closer to becoming Chris Godwin again. He caught 3 of 5 targets for 78 scoreless yards last week. It was actually his best game of the entire season, 10.8 PPR points. And his role should continuously grow with each healthy week that passes. Bigger days are coming as long as he stays healthy. But until we see that, he's just a risky wide receiver 4/flex. The matchup itself, very up and down. The Saints are allowing the 8th most touchdowns, winning wide receivers, the 7th fewest catches, 7th fewest yards, 12th fewest PPR points per game. 11 wide receivers in 12 games have been able to get to 10 points, 9 of which have been able to get to 16. It's a fine spot for Chris Godwin, but look, ultimately, I wouldn't feel great about this one. And that's not, I'm not trying to be rude, but I wouldn't feel great about any of these options. But if it's me, Devin Neal and Omarion Hampton are going to offer the higher floor just based on projected workload and projected volume. I personally am going with Devin Neal and Omarion Hampton in this game. Again, I wouldn't feel particularly good about it, but that's the route that I would go, and I definitely hope that helps Huff. All right, really quickly, I need to grab some water, clear. You guys can hear what's happening here. So I got to grab some water, clear the throat. In the meantime, like I mentioned at the top of the show, guys, I still have my Black Friday bundle available on whop.com/BBFF. You can see it in the yellow banners at the top of the screen. WHOP.com/BBFF. Black Friday bundle. It's $14.99. Okay, less than a trip for you and your wife or husband to McDonald's. And it's going to get you every week winner, which is what you see on the screen. It's all of my weekly research every single week. It's going to get you week 14, 15, 16, 17. I don't do a week 18 week winner. I need a week to recharge. But then we get back into it. The wild card round, the divisional round, conference championship, Super Bowl. And then you're also going to get access to the Discord server, right? 123 fantasy football players in here, hanging out, talking ball, helping each other dominate. Oh, thank you, everybody. I got one more special guest for today. Everybody say hello to you want to say hi?
Hello.
Hello. This is Milena. This is she'll probably be the CEO of this place one day. Probably next year, some point she'll take over. But thank you for bringing my water. I think they're tuned in upstairs and they can hear that I'm just losing my voice. They brought me water. They're good. So, so yeah, we got 123 fantasy football players in here hanging out, talking ball, helping each other dominate. Lots of questions that they're helping each other answer, myself included. I'm in here helping out. One of the coolest, we're talking bets in here. We're talking DFS, fantasy golf, fantasy basketball, fantasy baseball. My guy, Derek Devereaux, is hooking it up once again this year. This is something that I'm going to include in the 2026 memberships to Basement Brewed Fantasy Football. Fantasy Baseball Draft Guide. This is I don't touch this, and that's a good thing for you because I know nothing about fantasy baseball. Derek is the guy who puts this thing together. Absolute beast, absolute monster in the fantasy baseball game. I mean, this dude has won thousands of dollars in baseball best ball. That's a hard thing to say back to back, but he puts together a draft guide for anybody who's a BBFF member. It's not an additional cost. It's just something I throw in there because it's awesome and why not continue to give back? So, but yeah, you're going to get access to all the week winners, the Discord server. And as I mentioned earlier in the show, next week, 8 a.m. Sunday, December 14th, I'm doing my next autographed jersey giveaway. Whoever wins, I'm going to spin the wheel right here on the show, and whoever it lands on, that person gets to send me a list of 5 to 10 autographed jerseys that they would like to acquire, right? Tyreek Hill, Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, Devon Achane, whatever it is. You send me a list of 5 to 10 names. I go hunt down somebody on that list for you guys. Okay. So Black Friday bundle, head over to WHOP.com/BBFF, scoop it up, take a look at what you get as a member of Basement Brewed Fantasy Football. What's up, my fellow fantasy football nerds? If you're looking to dominate your league from start to finish and win cool prizes along the way, it's time to join the Basement Brewed Fantasy Football family.
As a member, you're going to get our brand new 2025 Draft Dominator, which is your ultimate guide with tiers, rankings, and season previews for over 280 players to make sure you walk out of your draft with the best team in the league. And that's only the beginning. You're also going to get our 2025 Week Winner, which gives you contextual matchup analysis for every single player in every single game, every single week, so that you can conquer those difficult start-sit dilemmas and dominate your weekly matchups. And let's not forget our amazing Discord community, which is a family of passionate fantasy football players sharing strategy, workshopping dilemmas, and helping each other dominate 24/7, 365. Plus, if that wasn't enough, every single month you're automatically entered into our autographed jersey giveaway. It truly is a no-brainer if you want to take your fantasy game to the next level, have the most fun you've ever had playing this game, and support a small but mighty business along the way. Sign up today for just $69 for an entire year. Seriously. That's 365 days of total domination, community, and giveaways for less than your last bar tab. Join the BBFF family right now using the link that we left for you in the description of this episode. I'll see.
All right, I think. Yeah, I think we're good to go. Now you guys got a preview of my beautiful singing voice, which is miserable. All right, next one. What do we got here? Todd Smiley wants to know Troy Franklin, Christian Watson, or Michael Wilson to start wide receiver 3, half PPR. It's got to be Michael Wilson. I realize it's still half PPR and that definitely matters, but I mean, there's 20 plus targets coming for Michael Wilson today, 15 plus. I feel like at worst. So Michael Wilson here for sure. Troy Franklin, by the way, is if you roster Troy Franklin, beware, because Pat Bryant is coming. He's coming in hot. Pat Bryant outsnapped Troy Franklin last week, which was significant because it was coming out of the Broncos bye week. Pat Bryant's coming, and Troy Franklin is in trouble. Okay, we're going Michael Wilson here. Colston Loveland or Colby Parkinson this week PPR. Look, I upgraded every Saturday. I call it the Saturday sweep, where I go through and I adjust the week winner for injury updates. I have the week winner created before kickoff of Thursday night football. I take Friday to recharge my batteries. I can't tell you guys how exhausted I am. I mean, imagine writing all of these words. This is all manual, by the way. This isn't like ChatGPT didn't write this. I wrote all of this myself. Imagine writing all of this for every single player and I start this on Tuesday and I have it wrapped up by Thursday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So Friday, I need to recharge. Saturday, I do a Saturday sweep, go through and adjust injury news, injury updates. And I will tell you, once it was announced that Roma Dunze was going to miss this game, I did go ahead and upgrade all Bears pass catchers. If you're in a pinch this week and you need a fill-in wide receiver, somebody that you can plug and play off waivers, one thing that I do relatively frequently is when I find something significant, I send out an email blast, an email notification to members of Basement Brewed Fantasy Football. And yesterday, I sent out a Week 14 wide receiver sleeper. If you're in a pinch, you need somebody at wide receiver, consider Luther Burden, who's available in 86% of Yahoo leagues, 74% of sleeper leagues. He's a great plug and play option this week in Week 14. If you need a wide receiver, go get him. But I also upgraded Colston Loveland. Now, I do still have him in the orange column. Roma Dunze is out with a foot injury that frees up 7.5 targets per game, and that's a slight boost for Colston Loveland's target potential. Over his last 4 games with Cole Kmet, Loveland is averaging 9+ PPR points per game. He landed between 6 and 10 points in 3 of them, but he mixed in a high of 14.9 points in week 12. He has landed between 4 and 6 targets, 3 and 4 catches, 28 to 55 yards in each of the last 4 games. I'm treating him as a mid-range tight end 2, but we are looking at pass-heavy game script, low-scoring environment, mediocre matchup, right? The Packers have been pretty mediocre against tight ends this year. They used to be a great matchup for tight ends, but they've kind of stiffened up in that arena. 5 tight ends in 12 games have been able to get to 10 plus PPR points, but 7 noteworthy names in 12 games came up short of 10 PPR points. I thought this was interesting. 0 tight ends in the last 9 games have been able to get to even just 9 points against the Packers, but still, Colston Loveland's a different animal. Colby Parkinson is more of a last resort type of tight end. Now, I will say he has a really nice matchup this week against the Cardinals. Cardinals are a terrific matchup for tight ends. They give up the 11th most catches, 10th most yards, 15th most touchdowns, 10th most PPR points per game. 8 tight ends in 12 games have been able to get to 10 plus PPR points. And Colby Parkinson, he's doing okay, but this part is problematic for me, is 3.6 targets per game. It's really hard to consistently score fantasy points when you're getting that low of volume. He's basically a touchdown or bust type of tight end play. Now, the good news is Colby Parkinson and the Rams, I mean, they're expected to score plenty of points, right? 28.75 points. That's the third highest implied point total on the entire slate. There should be no shortage of touchdowns in LA. So there's at least a chance Colby Parkinson finds the end zone. At the same time, they're 10-point favorites these days. So that projects as a type of game where, Matthew Stafford, Puka Nacua, Devontae Adams can grab a lead in the first half, but then Kyron Williams and Blake Corum kill the clock in the second half. Is Colby Parkinson going to be asked to do too much? I wouldn't count on it. And then you got the Bears who, project to be trailing all game. They're theoretically going to have to put the ball in the air. Colston Loveland is a better bet for volume than Colby Parkinson is. Me personally, especially because it's PPR where volume can matter as much as touchdowns, I'm going to go with Colston Loveland on that one. All right. Eli wants to know, good morning, fellas. Good morning, Eli. Kyle Monangai or Luther Burden? Oh, that's funny. We were just talking about him. Also starting Swift for extra info. So that in particular, that almost automatically disqualifies Kyle Monangai to me. Almost automatically. Typically speaking, you don't want 2 running backs from the same team in your offense because you're capping your own upside. If you think about it, every single time Kyle Monangai touches the ball, DeAndre Swift doesn't, and vice versa. It's a good way to cap your own upside. Now, last week, I mean, both of those dudes had 18 plus touches. So very few backfields in football can offer the type of volume where both guys are startable in the same offense. The Bears looked like they can be one of those offenses moving forward. But here's the problem. Once again, the Bears are 7-point underdogs. That tells us that the expectation for this game is that the Bears will be trailing. They will be a negative game script. They will have to put the ball in the air. If the Packers get out ahead, if the Packers put 25 points on the board, the Bears are going to have to throw the ball to keep up. Are they going to be able to give DeAndre Swift 20 touches and Kyle Monangai 20 touches, right? It doesn't project as that style of game for Chicago. I think there's plenty of risk to starting Kyle Monangai if you're already starting DeAndre Swift. Now, Luther Burden, I told you I sent out this announcement yesterday, this alert. This comes via email, it comes via Discord blast, but it helps people. Hey, if you're in a pinch, you need a wide receiver, scoop up Luther Burden as a really nice plug and play. The thing here is that Rome Odunze being out frees up 7.5 targets per game. And the biggest, most important part of this is that Luther Burden suddenly becomes a full-time wide receiver in that offense. Rome Odunze usually plays anywhere between 95% and 100% of the snaps in Chicago's offense. Suddenly, Luther Burden is going to be playing, let's just call it 80+%. He should undoubtedly see a new season/career high in snaps, offensive snaps this week in particular. And then you got the Bears that are going to be throwing the ball. DJ Moore should see a nice boost. Colston Loveland should see a nice boost, but Luther Burden is arguably the biggest beneficiary of the entire Bears offense with Rome Odunze being out. Okay. I feel very bullish on Luther Burden this week. He's been already running as the Bears wide receiver 3 over the last 3 games. Obviously nothing too exciting here. 7.5 PPR points per game, 5.3 targets, but all of that projects to tick upwards while Rome Odunze is on the shelf. I'll also mention yesterday, as I was looking at my prop bets, and this is interesting to me, Luther Burden's props outside of touchdown scorer, Luther Burden's reception and receiving yards props are higher than DJ Moore's are. Not by much. It's only a couple, like a catch and a couple of yards, but Vegas is expecting Luther Burden to be as effective, if not more effective, than DJ Moore in this upcoming game. So I would pause on assuming that DJ Moore is the new wide receiver 1 in Chicago. Matchup is nothing scary. The Packers are mediocre against wide receivers. They're holding wide receivers with the 15th fewest catches, 13th fewest yards, 14th fewest touchdowns, 13th fewest PPR points per game, 15, 13, 14, 13. All of that is right in the middle, right? There's 32 teams in the NFL. 15, 13, 14, 13 is like smack dab in the middle. That's not exciting. It's not necessarily a good thing, but it's definitely not scary. I'd feel pretty good about getting Luther Burden into my lineup this week. And in your case, where you already have DeAndre Swift, I'd be going with Luther Burden in this case. Hope that helps. All right. I believe we talked about this one, so hopefully you got your answer here, Sergeant. Bam Knight or Chris Rodriguez. I won't dig into Chris Rodriguez. We did Bam Knight, but I can already tell you I feel much better about Chris Rodriguez than Bam Knight. The big thing is, it's not that I feel good about Chris Rodriguez as much as I really don't want Bam Knight in my lineup this week. Chris Rodriguez is just in a better spot. The Commanders are favored. They should be able to play a neutral game script, keep the ball on the ground. The running game tends to thrive a bit better when Jaden Daniels is in the game. The Vikings are a mediocre matchup for running backs. While Bam Knight has a really difficult matchup with the Rams, I'm going Chris Rodriguez here, and I'd feel okay with that one. Same thing for you, Chase. I'd go Chris Rodriguez here. Look, Troy Franklin does have a really nice matchup. The Raiders are the 6th most fantasy points per game, but Broncos shouldn't have to throw the ball all that frequently to be successful in this game. And like I mentioned just a couple minutes ago, Pat Bryant, it's only been one game, but it's very possible that Pat Bryant has passed Troy Franklin on the Broncos depth chart and is now the official wide receiver 2 for Denver. The arrow is pointing down on Troy Franklin. He's going to be increasingly risky if that trend continues. I'd feel much better about Chris Rodriguez, at least from a floor standpoint. So if you're going for floor here, Chase, I'm going to go Chris Rodriguez. Although if you need ceiling, there is that argument for Troy Franklin to hit ceiling because of the matchup, because the Broncos have a high implied total. But Chris Rodriguez is probably the better combination of the two. All right. Nal, I'm not sure. 5324 wants to know Jordan Mason, Bashal Tootin, and Tyjae Spears sorry, I'm freezing, so I got to throw the hoodie back on. In a PPR league. So Aaron Jones is, oh, that's wild. Aaron Jones is pulled up on the screen. Aaron Jones has been removed from the injury report, so he should be good to go. He has a great matchup with Washington. Prior to Aaron Jones going down with last week's injury, he was separating every single week from Jordan Mason. It was starting to become the sort of thing where Aaron Jones was almost a workhorse, where Jordan Mason was just the change of pace guy. All of that being said, if Aaron Jones is healthy, Jordan Mason's not a realistic option. Bashal Tootin is basically a more talented version of Tyler Algier right now. He's basically a touchdown or bust running back, RB3/flex for the Jaguars. Now, the good news is he recently, when you look at the red zone snaps, red zone opportunities in Jacksonville, it's been Tootin and then Travis Etienne. Tootin's been the red zone, the goal line back, if you will. So that always gives him an opportunity at some touchdown upside. We talked plenty in this episode about the monsoon. If that means the Jaguars keep the ball on the ground more, it's entirely possible Bashal Tootin punches in a touchdown or two. I would much rather go Bashal Tootin over Jordan Mason. Tyjae Spears is going to be low upside. There's almost no upside here. Really what you're hoping for with Tyjae Spears is that he racks up 4 catches for 40 yards and that we're talking what, eight PPR points or so. I mean, the game itself is nasty. Like Browns Titans, this is a game that you basically want to avoid in almost all instances. Like it's Quinshon Judkins and that's it that you would want exposure to in this game. Tyjae Spears is averaging about 9.4 PPR points per game. He scored fewer than 10 PPR points in 6 of the last 7. His high was 17.2 in week 8, but it doesn't happen frequently. The matchup is really tough. The Browns are tough on running backs. There's just no upside. There's no ceiling to Tyjae Spears. There's probably a better floor because he can and usually does rack up those catches. But ultimately, when you think about the upside play, I'd be going with Bashal Tutin on this one. Obviously, you must be in a deeper league because that's not a good problem to have. I wouldn't want to be stuck on one of those 3, but I understand that, some leagues are really deep. Maybe you're in a 14, 16 teamer. I get it, man. I'm in plenty of those myself. Personally, I'm going Bashal Tutin on this one. Let's see. Brady wants to know full PPR pick 3. Jordan Addison, can't feel good about that. Alec Pierce, Mitchell. Who's Mitchell? Oh, AD Mitchell, Adonai Mitchell, Brenton Strange, Luther Burden. Can't feel good about Jordan Addison, man. It's like he's got a great matchup, but dude, the quarterbacks in Minnesota right now, it's brutal. It's brutal. The quarterbacks in Minnesota. I mean, he's played 4 games with JJ McCarthy. He's averaging 6 PPR points, 5.8 targets. He scored 0 points in week 12. Great matchup, but I don't see how you can start Jordan Addison with any kind of confidence right now. I mean, even Justin Jefferson is hard to put into a fantasy football lineup. So I'd eliminate him. You have some better options here. Alec Pierce, we talked about, he does get a ding from the monsoon because of the role that he plays. AD Mitchell is somebody that I feel good about. We talked about him earlier in the show. Luther Burden, we just talked about. And then you got Brenton Strange, who I do feel really good about, but I'm assuming you're in a flex. This is a flex conversation. I never feel good about flexing tight ends, but man, he's in a really good spot. I mean, there have been 6 games where he's played 71 to 90% of the snaps. He's averaging 10.8 PPR points per game, 5.3 targets, 4.5 catches, 53.3 yards, he scored 10 to 14 PPR points in 5 of 6 games. We're treating him as a back end tight end 1 with upside for more because of the possible shootout. But again, the monsoon, the Colts are a great matchup for tight ends. 4th most catches, 2nd most yards, 15th most touchdowns, 5th most PPR points per game. 7 different tight ends in 12 games have been able to get to 10. 2 of them have been able to get to 21. It's a good spot for Brenton Strange ultimately. I have him projected for 10 to 13. Alec Pierce was 11 to 15. Luther Burden, I have projected for 9 to 13. So this is all of these are pretty close. And then AD Mitchell. Why do I always look for the Colts when it hasn't clicked yet that he's on the Jets? 11 to 15. I would have a tough time leaving AD Mitchell out of this. I would get him in there. Burden, and then to me it comes down to Alec Pierce, Brenton Strange. Brenton Strange is going to offer the higher floor than Alec Pierce, just based on the role that Alec Pierce plays, but Alec Pierce definitely brings the heightened ceiling. So Brady, if I'm you, I'm locking in Luther Burden, I'm locking in AD Mitchell, and then from there I'm deciding, hey, do I need floor or do I need ceiling? And if you need floor, we're going with Strange. If you need ceiling, we're going with Alec Pierce. Jay Rogers wants to know Christian Watson or Alec Pierce. I'll go Christian Watson on this one. KJ Frederick wants to know, what's up, guys? What's up, KJ? Need some help win and get in the playoffs. So let's go. So playoffs start now, man. If you're in a win and get in situation, then this is the playoffs. Make no mistake. So let's get you in there. Better running back start, Charbs or Vidal? Woo, baby. We know the deal with Charbonnet, right? He's a touchdown or bust. If he scores, he hits. If he doesn't, he doesn't. Now, I will say he's in a great spot this week. For starters, the game environment is beautiful, right? The Seahawks are comfortable 7-point favorites. They should be able to win this game with defense, keep the ball on the ground. They have a strong projected team total of 25.5 points. They should be able to keep the ball on the ground. They should be able to win with defense. Charbonnet is very active once they get into the red zone, get inside the 5. We've seen it plenty this year. He's averaging 9.8 PPR points per game, 12 plus touches. Now the floor is not great, right? He scored fewer than 10 PPR points in 5 of 11 games. That's about 45%. Ceiling, he's gotten you 10 to 14 in about 5 of 11 games. So just as frequently, he's getting 10 to 14, but he did get that season high of 19.5. The matchup is an interesting one, but this is why it's really important, guys. I'm not sure if you're playing on Yahoo, ESPN, Sleeper. Be careful about taking at face value what a website says about the matchup. Like Yahoo, for example, I know it'll say the Falcons allow the, 11th or 9th most PPR points per game. They're a great matchup for running backs. It's important to dive deeper. It's always important to dig a little bit deeper. And that's exactly what I do in the week winner. That's what this whole thing is about. The Falcons look like a friendly matchup for running backs because, technically speaking, from a number standpoint, they do allow 13th most rushing yards, 13th most catches, 14th most receiving yards, 11th most touchdowns, 9th most PPR points per game, 14th most PPR points per touch. But here's the thing. Most of that damage was done by 2 guys, Christian McCaffrey, Jonathan Taylor. Zach Charbonnet is not either one of those guys, right? CMC and JT combined to dump 88.7 PPR points on the Falcons. Those 2 guys put up dang near 90 PPR points. Now check this out. Beyond that, just 11 running backs in 12 games have been able to reach 10 PPR points, so it's not nearly as friendly of a matchup as it sounded like. Just 5 of those guys have been able to get to 15 points. And the bright side is that all 5 of those guys were able to, all 5 of those guys have been within the last 7 games. So that defense is bleeding a little bit, but it's not necessarily as friendly of a matchup as it looks. Now, Kimani Vidal, it's the same thing as Omarion Hampton. We don't know what to expect from this backfield with Omarion Hampton coming back. For starters, we don't know what to expect from Justin Herbert with the hand injury. The Chargers are underdogs. That's never a good thing for a running back, unless you're a pass-catching running back. The matchup is fine, right? The Eagles are a friendly matchup for running backs. They give up plenty of production. 12 running backs in 12 games have gotten to 10. Ultimately, I have Kimani Vidal projected for 10 to 13 PPR points, where I have Charbonnet projected for 9 to 12. So that would suggest Kimani Vidal, but man, this is why it's important to point out that projections help, but you should never just go on projections ever. You think about listen, ultimately I got to go with the Seahawks, or I got to go with Charbonnet here. Ultimately, it comes down to the Seahawks are expected to score a really strong amount of points, whereas the Chargers aren't even expected to get to 20. And with Vidal, it's not like we're expecting a huge workload. It's not like we're expecting a bunch of catches. We're going to need Vidal to find the end zone to pay off in fantasy football as well. And it's more likely to be Omarion Hampton that gets the crack at the red zone or at the goal line. Chargers not expected to score a lot of points. That offense could be a mess if things don't pan out with Justin Herbert's injury. To me, I would feel better if I'm you, KJ, and I have to make this decision. I would feel much better about putting Charbonnet in my lineup than Vidal. I shouldn't say much better because it's very close. It's like 51 to 49%, but I would feel better about Charbonnet than Vidal. You got to pray that he finds the end zone, because if he doesn't, it's going to be nothing, but Vidal is far from a sure thing as well. Jonathan wants to know Bam Knight, Jordan Addison, Chris Rodriguez. We're definitely going Chris Rodriguez over Bam Knight, and ultimately I'm going Chris Rodriguez over Jordan Addison right now as well. Again, Jaden Daniels coming back. That helps the running game. Commanders favored to win. Vikings aren't a scary matchup. Jordan Addison is a scary start right now. I'm going Chris Rodriguez here. All right. What do we got next? Bob Hope wants to know Devin Neal or DeAndre Swift, also Sutton or Myers. PPR. Thanks. DeAndre Swift would be my play at running back. And then Sutton or Myers. We talked earlier about Jacoby Myers, so I won't dig in too much there. I think I saw another comment about Cortland Sutton, so let's spend a little bit of time here. The game environment for Denver in particular is solid, right? They're expected to score 24 points. They are 7-point road favorites, so that's the type of spread that suggests, hey, let's build a lead and then let's hand it to RJ Harvey to kill the clock in the second half. But Cortland Sutton's having an okay year, 12.6 PPR points per game, 19.6% of the team's targets. He's getting you 9 PPR points 75% of the time. He's getting you 18 plus PPR points about 25% of the time. Now, Cortland Sutton is a high-end wide receiver 3, but we're looking at a run-heavy game script. And it is worth noting that even though this is a terrific matchup, Cortland Sutton scored just 5.4 PPR points on 4 targets against these same Raiders just a couple weeks ago in week 10, which was his 3rd worst outing of the season. I always want you to take that with a grain of salt, right? A 1-game sample size isn't particularly something that we want to hang our hat on, but it is at least worth noting. Now, the matchup is, other than that, it's a good one, right? The Raiders are allowing the 3rd most catches to wide receivers, 8th most yards, 4th most touchdowns, 6th most PPR points per game. 17 different wide receivers have been able to get to 10 PPR points in 12 games. 9 of them have been able to get to 15 plus PPR points. You could argue that part of the reason Cortland Sutton did nothing against them in week 10 is because Troy Franklin did. Troy Franklin was the go-to guy. So again, Pat Bryant, if he's taken Troy Franklin's spot, erase that from your memory. That's terrible analysis. But Cortland Sutton is just ultimately we feel good about him more than we feel bad about having him in our lineup. But man, I'd have a really tough time benching Jacoby Myers right now. Like he's really, really hot in that offense. I know there's weather concerns, but we talked about him earlier. He's really, really hot in that offense. The matchup is almost just as good as the Raiders are. That game could shoot out. Jaguars should score their fair share of points. I'm fine with going Jacoby Myers here over Cortland Sutton. And the biggest reason there is that theoretically the Jaguars will have to throw more than the Broncos will to be able to secure the win. So hopefully that helps. I have no idea how to pronounce that, but thank you for your comment. And your question is PPR pick 3. Oh my gosh, that's a lot of names. All right, here we go. Nico Collins, Egbuka, Waddle, Wilson, Debo. So Nico Collins, I feel fine about. It's one of those guys where like you feel like you have to start him, but it just hasn't really worked out the way we would like it to. But ultimately, it's still a fine year for Nico Collins. He's played 8 full games with CJ Stroud. He's averaging 14.3 PPR points per game. That's pretty darn good. He scored 11 plus PPR points in 6 of those 8. He's been hot over the last month, scoring 20 to 24 points in 3 of the last 4 games. Of course, most of that was with Davis Mills and not CJ Stroud, but Stroud did pepper him with 10 targets last week, and he's scored 21.5 points. So he's on a heater right now. Matchup isn't great. Chiefs are tough on wide receivers. They're giving up the 14th most catches, but other than that, they're holding wide receivers to the 15th fewest yards, 8th fewest touchdowns, 15th fewest PPR points per game. 14 wide receivers in 12 games have scored 10 plus fantasy points against the Chiefs. I'm fine with Nico Collins. I have him projected for 14 to 18 PPR points. Emeka Egbuka, it's another guy that I feel fine about, but man, let's talk about Egbuka for a quick minute. It has been a tale of 2 seasons for Emeka Egbuka. Now, he has been ice cold over the last 7 games. He's averaging just 9.7 PPR points per game, despite 9.0 targets per game. The problem is that he's only catching 3.9 out of 9 targets that he's getting. He's catching less than half of what Baker Mayfield is throwing at him. He scored fewer than 10 PPR points in 6 of the last 7 tries. He did average 20 plus PPR points over the first 5, but it's it's come way down since then. He scored just 6.5 PPR points despite 9 targets against the Saints in week 8. The Saints are a mediocre matchup for wide receivers. And the other thing is that the Buccaneers are pretty heavy favorites in this game, 8 points. Theoretically, I think I mentioned this earlier in the show, but it projects as the type of game where let's grab a lead and then hand it to Bucky Irving and let him kill the clock in the second half. I'd feel better about Nico Collins than Emeka Egbuka. Now, Jalen Waddle is a guy that I have placed an emphasis on getting into my lineup this week in particular. I do like Jalen Waddle. I don't know why. Here we go. That's who I'm looking for. The game itself, mediocre. There's nothing that's particular. Like, all of this is pretty mediocre. The game environment is nothing that's particularly exciting. The Dolphins do have a decent team total of 22 points, which was the 14th highest among all 28 games on the all 28 teams on the week 14 slate. The Jets are a mediocre matchup. There's nothing to be scared of if you're going up against the Jets, especially since they lost Sauce Gardner. They are holding wide receivers with the 10th fewest catches and 14th fewest yards, 8th fewest touchdowns, 11th fewest PPR points per game. All of that is mediocre. None of that is scary. 16 different wide receivers in 12 games have been able to get to 10, 6 of which have been able to get to 15. Jalen Waddle has been solid without Tyreek Hill. He's averaging 13.8 PPR points per game, 7 targets. He scored fewer than 9 points in 3 of the last 8. He scored 14 to 16 in 2 of the last 8, and he scored 19 to 23 in 3 of the last 8. So we're treating him as a mid-range wide receiver 2 in the mediocre matchup. Ultimately, I like him better than Egbuka, but not as much as Nico Collins. Then we got Wilson. Who's Wilson? Wilson. Oh, Michael Wilson? If that's Michael Wilson, he's like, get him in for sure. Like, he's a must start. And then Deebo Samuel, we talked about earlier in the episode. I'm fine with Deebo Samuel, but ultimately I'm going Michael Wilson, Jalen Waddle, Nico Collins in this one. Assuming that's Michael Wilson, you got to get him in there. All right, thanks for your question. I know there's another one, but I am trying to get to as many people as I can. So hopefully that at least helps you as a starting point. Kyle Pitts or Dalton Kincaid? My God, guys. Look, I want to preface this by saying Dalton Kincaid is a super risky fantasy football investment this week. He's missed a couple weeks. He's coming off a hamstring injury. His knee is bothering him. All of those things are super risky. It puts him at risk of re-injury, getting knocked out of the game. So much risk to Dalton Kincaid this week. If he stays healthy, the upside is through the roof. Okay. For starters, we're talking about a Bills-Bengals game that has an over-under of 52.5 points. Okay. This game looks like it's going to be a shootout. Joe Burrow, Josh Allen. It's a great real-life game. It's a great fantasy football game. The Bills are expected to score 29 points. That is among the highest in all of all 28 teams in week 14. The matchup is the best possible matchup that a tight end could ask for. The Bengals get absolutely destroyed by tight ends almost on a weekly basis. Okay. They are hemorrhaging the most tight end catches, 7+ catches per game, most tight end yards, 94 tight end yards per game, most tight end touchdowns. Tight ends are scoring more than 1 touchdown every single game against the Cincinnati Bengals. And obviously, the most PPR points. Tight ends are averaging 23.17. Keep in mind that's total tight ends. It's not just 1 tight end on each team. So it could be like 3 tight ends, but still, they are getting destroyed by tight ends. Now, 11 different tight ends in 12 games have been able to score 10+ PPR points against Cincinnati, 5 of which have been able to get to 15, 4 of which have gotten to 20. 9 tight ends in the last 8 games have scored 10+ PPR points against the Bengals, 4 of which have scored 20+. More than 1 tight end per game is getting to 10. If he stays on the field in this shootout, it's a great setup for him. But it's also a really good setup for Kyle Pitts. So this is a great question. Now, the Falcons are 7-point underdogs. They're going to be throwing the ball. They're not expected to score a lot of touchdowns. Okay. So if you're banking on a Kyle Pitts touchdown, this probably isn't a great week to bet on that if the Falcons are expected to score 18. Now, Drake London is out for another week, so that keeps 10 plus targets on the board available for somebody to soak up. By the way, it has not been Darnell Mooney. It's been Kyle Pitts as the biggest beneficiary of Drake London being out. Pitts has now played 3 games with Kirk Cousins and without Drake London this year, which is what he has this week. And in those games, he's averaging 11.5 PPR points per game, 7 plus targets, 6 plus catches. He scored dang near 15 points in week 8 on 9 targets, just 4 to 5 points in week 12 on 5 targets. And then last week, he got 15 plus points on 8 targets. He's a high-end tight end 2 with tight end 1 upside in pass-heavy game script, mouth-watering matchup. His matchup is really good as well. Not quite Cincinnati Bengals good, but still top 5 in the NFL. The Seahawks are allowing the 3rd most tight end catches, 3rd most yards, 15th most touchdowns, 4th most PPR points per game. 10 different tight ends in 12 games have been able to get to 10, 2 of which have gotten to 18, 1 of which, Trey McBride, was able to get to 27. Ultimately, I have Kyle Pitts projected for 10 to 14 PPR points. I got Dalton Kincaid projected for 11 to 15 PPR points. Here's the thing. If you can stomach the risk, so Skinny Chungus, it's a funny name, Skinny Chungus, I'm not sure what situation you're in this week. If you look at your projections, if you're in a must win, if you're in a, hey, I need to win and score a bunch of points to get into the playoffs, then if you can stomach the possibility that Dalton Kincaid plays very limited snaps, gets knocked out of the game, if you can stomach that, I'm telling you, the ceiling for Kincaid this week is insane. But Kyle Pitts is ultimately going to offer the higher floor, which nobody's ever said about Kyle Pitts in the history of fantasy football. But there is going to be an element of safety to Kyle Pitts that there isn't with Dalton Kincaid. And he has similar upside because of the matchup, because of the pass-heavy game script. You combine the floor and the ceiling, it says Kyle Pitts. But if you just want maximum upside, it's Dalton Kincaid. Hope that helps. My goodness, guys. Look how far we have come this season. Imagine somebody asking you this during the fantasy draft season in August. Jacoby Brissett, Lamar Jackson. Jacoby Brissett is balling. Lamar is not. There's no way around that. However, I mean, there's no way to feel particularly good about Jacoby Brissett this week, other than the fact that he's been playing lights out. Cardinals aren't even expected to reach 19 points this week. The matchup is not good at all. The Rams holding quarterbacks to the 9th fewest PPR points per fantasy points per game. He's not going to have Marvin Harrison. He's not going to have Greg Dortch. He's not going to have Xavier Weaver. He's going to score fantasy points, but me personally, even despite how poorly Lamar Jackson is playing, there's no chance that I'm leaving Lamar Jackson on the bench. He's playing against the Steelers, who are allowing the 6th most fantasy points per game to quarterbacks. There's no chance I'm leaving Lamar Jackson on the bench in this spot where Jacoby Brissett is probably going to have a tough time. It's a tough matchup, tough game. Hopefully that helps. Then you got Waddle or Michael Wilson. I kind of just answered this on the last one. Michael Wilson over Waddle on that one. Epic Trick Shots 8327 wants to know Burrow or Daniels. Myers or AD Mitchell. So I actually had to make this Burrow or Daniels decision myself in a shallower league just yesterday because I found Jaden Daniels on the waiver wire, which was interesting. Ultimately, I'll tell you the decision comes down to this is, are you looking for floor or ceiling? Because floor is going to be Jaden Daniels, right? He's got the rushing ability. He can score points with his legs. He can score points with his arm. Ceiling, though, there's plenty of ceiling to Joe Burrow in this possible shootout with the Buffalo Bills. Nothing particularly exciting about the matchup. In fact, the Bills are tough on quarterbacks, holding them to the 3rd fewest fantasy points, whereas the Vikings aren't a great matchup for Jaden Daniels either. 7th fewest fantasy points, but ultimately you got the Bengals with a higher projected total than the Commanders, so they're expected to score more points, and they're in a shootout where they're going to need to score points to have a chance against Josh Allen in Buffalo. The risk here is that I guess there's going to be a little bit of snow in Buffalo. Not enough to deter me off of Joe Burrow, but you think about the combination of floor and ceiling, it probably leans closer to Jaden Daniels than Joe Burrow. But let me say this. I have Joe Burrow projected for, where are you, Joey? Joe Burrow, I have projected for 17 to 21 fantasy points. So solid. Ultimately, this is going to be a good problem for you to have. And then I got JD projected for 18 to 22. If you look at the floor and ceiling combination, Jaden Daniels is going to offer the higher floor. I love Joe Burrow, but we've seen some clunkers from Joe Burrow in the past. Like, he is susceptible to the occasional 11-point game. That's just not something you see with Jaden Daniels because of his rushing ability more often than not. Mitzel wants to know, am I crazy for starting Strange over Kincaid? I don't think you're definitely not crazy. Kincaid is super risky. Like there's definitely nothing crazy about this. We talked about Brenton Strange. Yeah, he's in a really good situation. Great matchup, plenty of volume he's seeing. It's the same thing as before. Higher floor for Brenton Strange, but would be massive ceiling for Dalton Kincaid. So Mitzel, I would say if you're just going for floor, go for Brenton Strange. If you need points, you need to swing for the fences, Dalton Kincaid for sure. All right, who's next here? We got Aldo wanting to know half PPR, pick one. That is a lot of names. All right, Jacoby, Debo. We talked about most of these. That's good. Half PPR. Okay. Jacoby. We're going Jacoby here. Half PPR places a little bit more of an emphasis on touchdowns than catches than a PPR league would. That hurts Devin Neal. That hurts Juwan Johnson. I mean, the Saints are only expected to score about 16.5 points. Juwan Johnson's matchup is okay. 16th fewest fantasy points per game. That's mediocre. Devin Neal's matchup is okay. But I mean, Deebo Samuel, he's got a really tough matchup against the Vikings. Commanders not expected to score too many points. I'm going to go Jacoby Myers here. He's got he's going against the Colts, who are allowing the 8th most PPR points per game. If that game does shoot out a little bit, Jacoby Myers should be one of the guys who benefits from that. So me personally, I'm going Jacoby on this one. All right. Let's see here. Karen wants to know, AD Mitchell, Smitty. Who's Smitty? Why do I not know who that is? Smitty. Like Devontae Smith? Is that who we're talking about? I don't know who that is. AD Mitchell, Smitty, Alec Pierce, or Michael Wilson. Michael Wilson is the answer here. Like Jacoby's going to have to throw the ball 40, 45, 50 times. No Greg Dortch, no Marvin Harrison, no Xavier Weaver. Like I put on Twitter yesterday, Michael Wilson and Trey McBride should be good bets for like 20 plus targets in this game coming up here. Oh, look, there I am. That's pretty cool. Where is it? Yeah. Michael Wilson and Trey McBride about to get 20 targets apiece. By the way, quick plug. I am hyper focused on growing my Twitter. So if you guys like the content, if you like what you're seeing in today's show, if you're hanging out on Twitter, X, would appreciate a follow if you don't mind. I'd love to hang out with you over on Twitter at BBFF Mikey, at BBFF Mikey. But yeah, for this question, I'm going Michael Wilson. I still don't I don't know why it's not clocking to me who Smitty is. I'm thinking Devontae Smith, but even still, I'm going Michael Wilson on that one. Not a start sit question. We have drop question. Drop Jordan Mason. Don't drop Bashal Tootin. to bring Hampton. Drop Jaguars defense. Yeah, if you have I'm never going to be a proponent for rostering more than one defense unless you're in like a dynasty league and they're all soaked up and like I get those things. But assuming you're in just like a normal-ish, standard-ish type of league, totally fine with dropping the Jaguars defense for sure. All right, let's see. King Bird wants to know, do I start AD Mitchell or Luther Burden? That is a really good one. This one is very, very, very 50-50. We talked about both of these guys earlier, so I won't spend too much time in the week winner here. Right, pop open Luther Burden's. Roma Dunze's out. Bears going to be throwing the ball. Packers mediocre matchup. I got Burden projected for 9-13. And then AD Mitchell. It's going to be AD Mitchell that I'm going with here. He's projected for 11-15. He's 85-86% of the snaps. 25 targets in 3 games. Matchup isn't great, but they're getting him the ball. Jets expected to actually score more points than the Bears this week. This one's tough. Like, don't get me wrong. Some of these are like, oh, definitely this guy, definitely this guy. This one's like 51% AD Mitchell, 49% Luther Bird. So hopefully it works out for you, King Bird. That one's tough. That one could definitely go either way. Hottie Joe. Hi, Hottie Joe. Half PPR, Vidal or Mason? You got to go Vidal here. If Aaron Jones is going to be in the game, and in fact, they removed him from the injury report. I mentioned earlier in the show that he was pulling away, separating from Jordan Mason. Jordan Mason, to me, isn't a realistic option in week 14 of fantasy football. So hopefully I don't eat my words on that one, but I'd go with Vidal. I don't love Vidal this week by any means, but Jordan Mason is a guy I would try to avoid starting if I can, even despite having a really good matchup. Brad Tom, pick one. Chris Rodriguez, Jaden Reed, Devon Vele, Tyjae Spears, Parker Washington. This one's tough. It would help to know if this is PPR or not. Oh, duh. Literally the first word. PPR. Pick one. Jaden Reed is... There's going to be plenty of risk here for Jaden Reed only because we don't know what to expect. Like, is he going to play full-time snaps? Are they going to get him in there? We know that at best, Jaden Reed only sees the field in 3 wide receiver sets. They don't bring him in wide receiver 2 sets. If they're only going to have 2 wide receivers on the field, it's going to be Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs for now. So there's plenty of uncertainty there for Jaden Reed. Devon Vele, I mean, I scooped them up in some dynasty leagues this week. Very much entrenched as the team's wide receiver 2. There's definitely some upside here for Vele this week. For starters, we talked about the Saints being heavy underdogs, right? They're 8-point underdogs. That should be a pass-heavy game script. They should, be in a spot where Tyler Shuck has to throw the ball 30, 35, 40 times. Vele is locked in as a top 2 wide receiver in that offense alongside Chris Olave, who's dealing with a back injury. Always could get knocked out of the game if that flares up. 8 targets last week, 7 targets the week before that. He's on the wide receiver 4 flex radar. Now, the thing to note is he's not a good bet to score a touchdown, right? So that caps his upside big time, right? The Saints in particular aren't expected to score a lot, just 17 points. It's a great spot to fire up the Buccaneers defense. So what you're hoping for with Vele is that he racks up catches and yards with this being a PPR league. The matchup is nice. The Buccaneers are allowing the 4th most catches, 7th most yards, 16th most touchdowns, and 11th most PPR points per game. We've seen 10 different wide receivers in 12 games get to 11 plus PPR points. We've seen 10 of them get to 15 plus, 4 of which have been able to get to 20 plus. It's a good spot to fire up a Saints wide receiver this week. Ultimately, I do have Devon Vele projected for about 9 to 12 PPR points. Okay. Tyjae Spears, there's 7 to 11 PPR points. Oh, that's Tony Pollard. 7 to 10 PPR points projected for Tyjae Spears. We talked about him a little bit earlier. There's 0 upside there. Like, as much as Devon Vele is not a good bet to score a touchdown, Tyjae Spears is even worse of a bet. The Titans are projected for 14, 15 points against a really tough Cleveland Browns defense. It's it's one of those things where you need Tyjae Spears to get 4 or 5 catches for 40, 50 yards, and that's kind of pushing it. So I personally, I'm going Rodriguez over Spears. I'm going Vele over Spears. Parker Washington now with Brian Thomas back in the mix, and Parker Washington himself is dealing with an injury as well. But with Brian Thomas back in the mix, Parker and Brenton Strange back in the mix, Parker Washington is no better than 3rd in line among wide receivers for targets. Could be 4th in line for targets when you include Brenton Strange. You got the monsoon, which we've talked about probably 40 times now on this episode. Good matchup with the Colts, but the hip injury, he's averaging 8.3 PPR points per game. Brian Thomas is back. Jacoby Myers is on fire. Brenton Strange is getting targets. Parker Washington is more of a long shot wide receiver 4-5. I have him projected for 7 to 11 PPR points in this game. I'd feel better about some of those other guys we mentioned. Parker Washington, and I think Jaden Reed is the biggest upside bet of this bunch moving forward in future weeks. And arguably this week, if you need a ceiling play, that would be Jaden Reed. Like Jaden Reed has a bigger, higher ceiling than all of these guys. Much lower floor just based on the uncertainty of we don't know how much he's going to play, if at all. Chris Rodriguez is going to offer the best combination of floor and ceiling, right? He's taken over as the team's RB1. He's getting the majority of the work now in Washington. We talked a little bit about it earlier. Jaden Daniels coming back helps out big time. The Vikings are an interesting matchup for running backs. They are holding running backs to the 14th fewest PPR points per game, fewest PPR points per touch. Part of that, though, is because they are suffocating running backs in the receiving game. Running backs just don't do a lot of damage via the passing game to the Minnesota Vikings. They're holding running backs to the 4th fewest running back catches, 2nd fewest running back receiving yards, 0 running back receiving touchdowns this year. But we're talking about Chris Rodriguez here. We're not talking about Devon Achane. Chris Rodriguez averages 0.5 targets per game to begin with. We don't care if the Vikings are good about suffocating the receiving game, because that's not what Chris Rodriguez does anyway. Where the Vikings are vulnerable is on the ground. They're allowing the 7th most rushing yards and 10th most rushing touchdowns. That's exactly where Chris Rodriguez butters his bread. Ultimately, you got the Commanders, who are now favored with Jaden Daniels. The running game should be more effective, more efficient. I like Chris Rodriguez, both from a floor and ceiling standpoint, more than I like some of these other guys. To me, it comes down to Rodriguez versus Devon Vele. Rodriguez brings that touchdown. I don't want to call it upside, because it's not like we're going to, he's more likely to not score than he is to score. That sounds like a weird sentence, but you get what I'm saying. But Devon Vele is not likely to score either. So personally, Rodriguez is going to bring a better floor ceiling combination than any of these other guys. Jaden Reed is going to offer the maximum ceiling, but also the possibility of a full on 0. And then Devon Vele is kind of in the middle of those. So hopefully that helps. By the way, if you guys are liking what you're seeing, this here is the week 14 week winner. You can scoop it up for $2.99. Maybe you've already made your decisions for this week and don't need it for this week, but week 15 will be on my website shortly. Week 16, week 17, you can scoop up the Black Friday bundle, which is going to give you all of them, Discord access, monthly jersey giveaways. But if you're liking what you're seeing, if you're liking the content of today's episode, I got a couple different ways you can support it really easily. Number one, tap that subscribe button on the Basement Brewed Fantasy Football YouTube channel. Tanner and I are on a mission to get to 1,000 subscribers, and we are less than 70 away. So we really appreciate it if you just subscribe. It costs you nothing to do so. And like I mentioned not long ago, I am doing everything I can to grow my Twitter following. So if you are up for it, if you're hanging out on Twitter, if you can follow at BBFF Mikey, would really love to hang out with you over there. Twitter, X, whatever it's called. All right, let's keep going through a couple more of these. I'm exhausted, by the way. I'm losing my voice. Haven't set my own DFS lineups yet, so I might be putting in some zeros, but this is for the people. This is for you guys, okay? Jared wants to know full PPR K9 or McConkey. Woo, baby. What a problem to have here. Man, it's really tough to feel any kind of optimistic about the Chargers offense this week. Justin Herbert dealing with that broken hand. I mentioned earlier in the show that part of the expectation for the Chargers this week is that the Herbert takes more snaps out of shotgun. B, Herbert doesn't run. C, Greg Roman calls more running plays than passing plays to limit the exposure to Justin Herbert getting hit, getting sacked. Could be lowered passing game volume. Now, that being said, they might not necessarily have a choice, right? The Eagles are favored to win this game. And if they're playing ahead, eventually the Chargers are going to have to throw the football. There's nothing at all that's scary about the matchup for Ladd McConkey. I mean, the Eagles are right in the middle of the pack, 16th fewest PPR points per game, but fewest should be put in quotes. Ladd McConkey himself, hold on, let me slide this over real quick. Ladd McConkey himself is, 13 PPR points per game. He's seeing about 23% of the targets. He's getting you 9+ PPR points 75% of the time, 17+ PPR points 25% of the time. But again, Justin Herbert, I mean, there's no denying that there's risk to Justin Herbert as a fantasy football asset, but also his pass catchers, especially if the Chargers are going to be throwing the ball less, running the ball more now that they got Omari and Hampton back. If Justin Herbert gets knocked out of the game, which could happen pretty easily, do we want Trey Lance throwing our passes? There's definitely risk here. But again, matchup isn't scary. There's nothing to be scared of when it comes to the Eagles against wide receivers. Ladd McConkey, I have projected for 12 to 15 PPR points. Now, Kenneth Walker, dude, talk about a frustrating season. We talked about this earlier with Zach Charbonnet. This is a good game environment for a running back to thrive in. For starters, the Seahawks are expected to score plenty of points, right? 25.5 points. There's plenty of touchdown upside for anybody who's wearing a Seattle Seahawks uniform this week. Also, the Seahawks are comfortable 7-point favorites, right? That's a run-heavy game script that suggests they should be able to keep the ball on the ground, keep feeding their running backs. So that tells us volume shouldn't be an issue for Kenneth Walker, and there should be scoring chances. However, we've seen that plenty this year with the Seahawks. Volume not an issue, plenty of scoring chances, and Kenneth Walker is not finding the end zone. It's wild. He's played 11 games alongside Zach Charbonnet this year. He's averaging 10.6 PPR points per game. He's getting dang near 15 touches per game, but he has just 2 touchdowns all season. His floor, he has scored fewer than 10 PPR points in 6 of 11 games, so more than half the time he's getting less than 10 points. But his ceiling, he scored 10 to 13 points in 3 of those 11, but he mixed in some highs of 18.8 and 20.1. I got him as a mid-range RB3/flex, but he does have nice RB2 upside in this run-heavy game script, high-scoring environment. We talked about this matchup. Dang. I need a lozenge. Talked about this matchup when we were talking about Charbonnet earlier. Falcons not nearly as easy of a matchup as they look on the surface, but they're also not scary. It's nothing to be scared of. Ultimately, I have Kenneth Walker projected for about 11 to 15. If I'm in your situation here, Jared, I'm likely to go with Kenneth Walker in this case, just based on all the uncertainty in LA's offense versus the volume that Kenneth Walker should see if he just stays upright, stays in the game. And there's always the possibility that he finally finds the end zone. Just checking here. Yeah, Kenneth Walker does appear on the touchdown regression tracker. I mentioned this earlier in the show. If you're just tuning in, one of the tabs at the bottom of the week winner is the touchdown regression tracker that shows you mathematically, this isn't my gut or opinion, mathematically which players are due for a wide receiver, due for a touchdown based on where they sit currently in terms of usage, volume, yardage, etc. This is all based on historical data of where a player should be in terms of touchdowns based on their usage and their volume. And Kenneth Walker does appear on this list. He's quote unquote 1.2 touchdowns behind where he should be in terms of scrimmage yards, touches, etc. So that at least provides some optimism and some hope that Kenneth Walker does finally find the end zone. Personally, I'm going Kenneth Walker in this one, but it's super close. It's not a clear cut, like 70-30 type deal. I'd call it 51-49, flip a coin, but I'm going with Kenneth Walker just based on the sure thing that is the volume he should see. Trevor asks, isn't Parker Washington out today? I know he was questionable with that hip injury coming into the game. This show started at 8 a.m. Central, so we're coming up on 3 hours. And once the show starts, I'm tuned out of headlines. I have no clue if there's been an announcement there. So hopefully you guys have an answer on that one. Gosh darn, man. Losing my voice. I might have to wrap this thing up shortly here. E. Baldwin wants to know, JD5 or Stafford? Look, man, Stafford... I don't think we're talking enough about Matthew Stafford for MVP this year. Dude is going crazy. 20.2 fantasy points per game. He scored 20 plus fantasy points 50% of the time. There's nothing that's exciting about the matchup. There's nothing that's scary about the matchup. The Cardinals are just a very mediocre spot for quarterbacks, maybe slightly on the subpar matchup side. The trick with this game, when it comes to Matthew Stafford from a fantasy football standpoint, is that the Rams are 10-point favorites. Okay. That's their 2-score favorites. That suggests a possible blowout victory. Like they should just steamroll the Arizona Cardinals. And if that happens, like Vegas sportsbooks are suggesting it will, Matthew Stafford is not going to be asked to do too much to win this game. The Rams defense should be able to take care of business. Kyron Williams should be able to take care of business. It's a sort of game that sets up as a sort of game where Matthew Stafford scores the majority of his fantasy points in the first half, right? Let's hit Puka Nacua. Let's hit Devontae Adams. Let's get our points on the board. But in the second half, let's turn around and hand it to Kyron Williams and Blake Corum. He's balling, and I love having him in my lineup this year. I would have a really tough time benching Jaden Daniels in a game where, Jaden Daniels, he's typically a pretty consistent option. He scored 15 plus fantasy points in all 6 appearances this year. He averaged 22 plus fantasy points in 18 games last year, scoring 75 plus fantasy points scoring 20 plus fantasy points 75% of the time. Typically a high floor, high ceiling type of quarterback. I'm going to go Jaden Daniels, closer game, tougher matchup, but closer game, rushing ability, which helps the floor, helps the ceiling. I'm going Jaden Daniels on this one. All right, where are we at here? Ooh-wee. Oh, JD5 or Patrick Mahomes. Now, this one is interesting. I'm actually going to go Jaden Daniels on this one, which, don't get me wrong, 9 times out of 10 this year, Patrick Mahomes is a automatic start type of quarterback. Like you just put him in. He's having a great year, right? 21.9 fantasy points per game. He's getting you 15 plus 75% of the time. He's getting you 27 plus 25% of the time. I have him written down as a high floor, high ceiling, automatic start QB1. But man, his matchup is the worst possible matchup that a quarterback can get in fantasy football in 2025. We saw what these Texans did to Josh Allen just a couple weeks ago. They are allowing the 16th most rushing yards, but ultimately they're holding quarterbacks to the 4th fewest passing yards, 4th fewest passing touchdowns, fewest rushing touchdowns, and fewest fantasy points per game. Quarterbacks are averaging short of 12 fantasy points per game against the Texans this year. They are lights out against quarterbacks, against everybody, really. They're lights out against running back, wide receivers, tight ends. It's a great defense. There have been just 5 quarterbacks in 12 games this week that have been able to reach even just 14 fantasy points. So 5 in 12 games. That's not even 0.5 per game. Getting to 14 fantasy points. None of them have been able to get to 20. The Texans have not allowed a single 20-plus point performance from a single quarterback this year, including Josh Allen, by the way. 7 quarterbacks in 12 games came up short of 14 fantasy points. Matthew Stafford didn't get to 14. Trevor Lawrence 2 times failed to reach 14. Sam Darnold, Josh Allen, lots of noteworthy names that couldn't even get to 14 fantasy points against the Texans. Really tough matchup. Patrick Mahomes is usually a must-start quarterback, and he still is, but if you have an alternate possibility like JD5, Jaden Daniels, this is a good spot to use Jaden Daniels instead, and that doesn't happen very often. Ooh, baby. Look at this one. AJ Brown or Michael Wilson. I can't believe we're here saying this, but once again, it's got to be Michael Wilson. AJ Brown is catching absolute fire right now. Like he's balling. We waited a long time to see him take off. He's finally taken off. Things are going really, really well. He scored 25 plus PPR points in 3 of the last 5 games. So he's getting there, but man, this matchup is tough. The Chargers are really tough on wide receivers. They're actually the toughest matchup in fantasy football for all wide receivers. Holding wide receivers are the 7th fewest catches, 3rd fewest yards, 3rd fewest touchdowns, fewest PPR points per game. 13 wide receivers in 12 games have been able to get to 10, but just 5 have been able to get to 15. It's not necessarily the type of environment where Jalen Hurts is going to have to throw too much, theoretically. I mean, the game is projected to be one of the lower scoring games on the slate at a 42.5 point over under. And again, Jacoby Brissett, 45 pass attempts, Michael Wilson, 20 targets, possibly on deck. If you're in a PPR league, which it looks like you are, Michael Wilson is teed up for dude. It wouldn't surprise me in the slightest if Michael Wilson leads all wide receivers in targets this week. It's like that. Okay. Liam Williams wants to know, start Terry McLaurin or Christian Watson at flex PPR. That's a good one. We talked about Christian Watson earlier in the show, so I won't spend too much time diving into him on the week winner, but ultimately we feel pretty good about Christian Watson this week. Terry McLaurin, you always want to take a one game sample size with a grain of salt, but the fact that he racked up 14 targets in his return from injury last week is a really, really good sign for him moving forward. The trick is his matchup, right? The Vikings are a terrifying matchup. 4 wide receivers, holding them to the fewest catches, 5th fewest yards, 8th fewest touchdowns, 2nd fewest PPR points per game. Just 10 wide receivers. I'm just remembering we went through this, but just 10 wide receivers in 12 games have been able to reach 10 plus PPR points against the Vikings. It's not a great spot for Terry McLaurin. I have him projected for about 11 to 14 points. Christian Watson, I have projected for 14 to 18 points. If he keeps running as the Packers wide receiver 1, they're expected to score a good amount of touchdowns. Bears present a nice matchup for wide receivers. It sounds crazy to say, but for what might be the only time in history, I'm actually going to go with Christian Watson on this one. Hopefully that helps. Magdi, my guy Magdi, what's up, buddy? Thanks for tuning in here. He's in a PPR league and he wants to know Jaden Higgins or Devin Neal. So Devin Neal, we talked about. I don't love him this week, but I'm fine with him. Unfortunately, that's the exact same thing with Jaden Higgins. I don't love Jaden Higgins this week. Tough matchup. Chiefs are really tough on wide receivers. 14th, they do give up the 14th most catches, but other than that, it's 15th fewest yards, 8th fewest touchdowns, 15th fewest PPR points per game. Texans not expected to score a lot of points here. They have a low team total under 20 points, not expected to score too much. Jaden Higgins is heating up and he profiles as the type of rookie wide receiver that can take off down the stretch. 15 plus points in week 10, 9 points in week 11, 13 and 12, 11 and 13. Most of that was with Davis Mills, but still in his first game with CJ Stroud back last week, he did score 11.5 PPR points on 5 targets. So he's heating up, but we're not quite there yet where he's in some sort of like must start territory. I'll say the thing that's really exciting about Jaden Higgins is that he's not yet playing at his ceiling. He is finally running as the team's wide receiver 2, but he's still hovering around 57 to 61% of the snaps. There's plenty of room for growth if he starts playing 80 to 90% of the snaps, but we're just not quite there yet with Jaden Higgins where he's in some sort of must start territory. I have him projected for 10 to 13 PPR points. Devin Neal, I also have 10 to 13, but Devin Neal is a much better bet for quote unquote guaranteed volume than Jaden Higgins is. Personally, I would lean ever so slightly in Devin Neal's direction based on that alone, considering the fact that neither one of them is in a really good spot. They're both in mediocre or bad spots. I personally would go with Devin Neal on this one. Whoo-wee. I'm exhausted, guys. All right, what do we got? Alec Pierce, we've talked about plenty. Chris Godwin, nah. Aaron Jones. Listen, dude, if Aaron Jones is full go, which it sounds like he will be, they actually removed him from the injury report. He has a really, really good matchup. He has a really, really good setup this week. All we need from Aaron Jones is that he's healthy and good to go. He is averaging 9.6 PPR points per game. Over the last several weeks, he's been separating more and more and more from Jordan Mason if he can stay on the field. That shoulder injury is really causing some problems. But man, he has a really nice matchup this week. The Commanders are allowing the 6th most rushing yards, 5th most receiving yards, 8th most touchdowns, 4th most PPR points per game, 13th most PPR points per touch. 11 running backs in 12 games have scored 10 plus PPR points, 7 of which have gotten to 17. Ultimately, I have Aaron Jones projected for about 9 to 12 PPR points. I do think there's upside for more if he just stays on the field for all 60 minutes. Who else? Oh, Chris Godwin. We talked a little bit about Chris Godwin earlier. We're waiting and watching for him to become the Chris Godwin of old that we know. I have him projected for 8 to 12. Alec Pierce is somebody that I was really bullish on coming into today. 11 to 15 PPR points. I will say here, Thunder, that if you are in a situation where you're going for ceiling, like you need to score as many fantasy points as possible at the risk of scoring 0, it's Alec Pierce. Alec Pierce is in the best environment among this trio of options that you've given me. If you're just in a spot where you need floor, you need a guy who's going to get some quote unquote guaranteed touches, possibility of a touchdown, nice matchup, that's Aaron Jones. Chris Godwin is the odd man out here based on week 14 data, based on week 14 research. Hopefully that helps. Alec Pierce is going to offer the higher ceiling. Aaron Jones is going to offer the higher floor. Corey Reddington wants to know Kareem Hunt, Chris Rodriguez, or Bam Knight. So Bam Knight, I'm going to eliminate. We talked about him earlier in the show. Chris Rodriguez, we talked about a little bit earlier. He's in a really, really nice setup. Commanders expected to win. Running game should be a little bit more efficient. Matchup is friendlier than it looks. Kareem Hunt is a guy that I caution. The more Isaiah Pacheco, with each healthy week that passes, there's always the possibility that Pacheco takes 4 as the team starts 1. And it's not necessarily a great spot for Kareem Hunt, right? The Texans are really tough on everybody, like I mentioned, but they're tough on running backs as well. Just 10 running backs in 12 games have been able to reach even just 10 PPR points. Now, the Chiefs are projected to win, and that definitely helps. Their team total is modest, 22.5. They're not expected to like blow the roof off by any means. I have Kareem Hunt projected for 9 to 12 PPR points. I do have Chris Rodriguez projected for 8 to 11. Again, this is one of those situations where projections help, but they shouldn't tell the whole story. Me personally, if I had to make this decision, I would feel better about Chris Rodriguez in my lineup than I would Kareem Hunt. But again, this one is really, 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 really close. It's a coin flip. It's very much 51 to 49%. It's nothing that I would feel strongly about either way. You guys, Jordan Love is on the show, trying to get his fantasy question in before he takes on the Bears in a few hours. He wants to know Christian Watson, Michael Wilson, DK Metcalf, Pittman, and Sutton. Well, once again, you got to put Michael Wilson in there. If this is PPR, that like the catch potential for Michael Wilson this week is insane. And then we talked earlier in the show about Michael Pittman. He would be actually, we've talked about all of these guys at this point, except DK Metcalf, but DK Metcalf is the worst option out of this bunch until we see him turn it around. It's just not happening for DK Metcalf. He's averaging 11.9 PPR points. He is getting 22% of the targets, but he's getting you 8 points 75% of the time. He's getting you 15 points 25% of the time. It's just not happening for DK Metcalf. He's got a nice matchup, but Steelers not expected to score too many points this week, just a 19-point team total. You have a lot better options here. I'd be totally comfortable eliminating Metcalf. To me, if you have to pick two of these guys, I'm going Michael Wilson for sure. And then after that, I'm going Michael Pittman. I still, even despite the monsoon, this is a good spot for Michael Pittman. Whew, exhausted. Harvey, Walker, Monungai. Harvey. I won't spend time. This show is going on 3 hours, so for the sake of time, I won't dig in too much here. We talked a little bit about Monungai earlier. We talked about Kenneth Walker just a few moments ago. It was a great spot for RJ Harvey. I'd feel really excited about getting RJ Harvey in my lineup this week. Broncos are 7-point favorites. They should be able to keep the ball on the ground, especially in the second half as they're trying to milk the clock. They have a really nice team total of 24 points. There should be a serviceable amount of touchdown opportunities for the Broncos, for RJ Harvey. We're not even scratching the surface of what RJ Harvey's capable of, by the way. In fact, it's funny that I said that because Sean Payton said exactly that earlier in this week. I think he said, you ain't seen nothing yet or something like that. He basically hinted that like we haven't even scratched the surface with RJ Harvey. It's just going to get better and better as the weeks go on. Nothing at all that's scary about the Raiders as a matchup. They are ultimately holding running backs to the 12th fewest PPR points per game, but that's very mediocre. 13 running backs in 12 games have been able to score 10. 6 of them have been able to get to 16 plus. Nothing that's terrifying about the Raiders. I feel so much better about RJ Harvey this week than I feel about Kenneth Walker and Kyle Monungai. And you're starting two. For me, it's Harvey and it's Walker for sure. Those are two offenses that should be able to keep the ball on the ground for all 60 minutes. The Bears run the risk of falling behind and have to put the ball in the air, and Kyle Monungai is not at all involved in the passing game. Also, the Bears aren't expected to score as many points as the Broncos or Seahawks, so there should be fewer touchdown opportunities for Monungai as well. Harvey, Walker, feel really good about that one. Kevin wants to know Allen or Jay Daniels. Assuming we're talking about Josh Allen here, it's Josh Allen. You do not bench Josh Allen, albeit you don't bench Jay Daniels either. But Josh Allen is in a shootout with the Bengals, and that Bengals defense is far from shutdown. So we're definitely going Josh Allen here. Sports Memes channel said they opened up baseball, best ball on Underdog. Yeah, so that's a big part of the reason Derek is that's a big reason that Derek is putting together the baseball draft guide right now. I'll try not to put too much out there on him, but he had a pretty nice payday in baseball best ball over the last few years. One of which was really, really nice a couple years ago. So yeah, man, get in on the action again. The Basement Brewed Fantasy Football Baseball Draft Guide is totally free with membership. We just throw it in there just to give people access to it. If you use it, great. If you don't, that's up to you too. Jeff Rogers wants to know. Sorry, I'll read that in a second. I'm just kind of catching up on some of these other comments to see how many are left. Jeff Rogers wants to know, need one wide receiver, one flex. Scary Terry, Chris Rodriguez, Troy Franklin, full PPR. Look, I don't want to tell you to put two I don't love saying, hey, play both commanders, but Troy Franklin is a guy that the arrow is pointing straight down. Every week, you guys, I send out on Monday, I dig in, I call it the nerd alert. Where is it? I dig in. Come on now. Week 14 sleeper, waiver wire. Here we go. Every Monday, I do the nerd alert. So I dig in and I analyze every box score, snap shares, target shares, red zone usage. I go through the entire NFL and look at the previous week to help project what the next week is going to look like. This is an alert I send out to all Basement Brewed Fantasy Football members every single Monday. In the nerd alert, I talked about, here it is. coming out of the bye week, which by the way is significant, and I'll talk about that in a second. Broncos third round rookie Pat Bryant played more offensive snaps at 70%, which is noteworthy, than last year's fourth round rookie pick, Troy Franklin, 53%. Still serviceable for sure. He's not like dead in the water by any means. But it does tell us that Pat Bryant may have potentially supplanted Troy Franklin as the team's wide receiver 2 moving forward. Bryant saw a career high 7 targets last week. He caught 3 of them for 42 scoreless yards, 7.2 PPR points, while Troy Franklin, by the way, saw a new season low, 3 targets, catching 2 of them for 21 scoreless yards, 4.1 PPR points. Pat Bryant has 13 targets in the last 2 games, a 16 to 17% target share in each of them. And this is where it gets important. Given the recent trend of rookie wide receivers exploding down the stretch after their bye week. Okay, so Denver used the bye week to get Pat Bryant more involved in the offense, and all of a sudden he's running as the team's wide receiver 2. Pat Bryant should be added to benches immediately. I have him in a couple of my lineups this week where I'm in a pinch at wide receiver. But all of this, while it's a great sign for Pat Bryant, in fact, I mentioned in one of my alerts that I sent out, just a reminder to my people, add Pat Bryant in as many leagues as possible. So while I'm super bullish on Pat Bryant, all of that automatically means the arrow is pointing down on Troy Franklin. He's losing playing time. He's losing targets. That's not a good thing. Again, he's not dead in the water. He's still playing more than 50% of the snaps. He's still going to have opportunities out there. But the arrow is pointing down, whereas these other guys, the arrow is pointing up. Scary Terry had 14 targets last week. Chris Rodriguez is running as the team's RB1. He's got a friendlier matchup than we thought. I'm going Scary Terry and Chris Rodriguez in this particular situation. All right. Man, I don't know how much I got left, guys. I am exhausted right now, but what do we got? Sean Connery wants to know which 4 running backs, which 3 should I start? All right, there's a lot here. Really love RJ Harvey. Don't love Kenneth Gainwell. Pass heavy game script. Devin Neal, Woody Marks, Kamani Vidal, Omarion Hampton. RJ Harvey is a lock. Like he's my favorite one in that group. Kenneth Gainwell, that's going to be super risky because let's see. Over the last 8 games with Jaylen Warren, Kenneth Gainwell is averaging 10.3 PPR points. The big thing with him is he's averaging 3.9 catches on 4.4 targets. Most of that, of course, is buoyed by a 16-touch, 29.5 outing in Week 11 and a 16-touch, 18.2 point outing in Week 12. But he scored fewer than 10 PPR points in each of the other 6 games. He's a boomer bust wide receiver 3/flex in this friendly matchup, a low scoring environment, pass heavy game script. That's what we're looking for with Kenneth Gainwell. The hope is that he racks up catches in a pass heavy game script. However, Jaylen Warren prior to this year, Jaylen Warren built a career on being very effective in the passing game. And earlier this season, he was being used as a pass kit. Well, he was being used as a workhorse, but part of that is catching passes out of the backfield. Point is, at any given moment, the Steelers could easily just turn it right back to Jaylen Warren as the pass-catching running back. But it's also fair to say that Kenneth Gainwell's balled out as the pass-catching running back. So the hope here is that he racks up catches. It's up to you to decide whether or not you think that's going to be the case in this game. Devin Neal is going to be a safer bet for touches. Woody Marks should have a similar amount of touches as Devin Neal with higher touchdown upside. And then Kamani Vidal and Omarion Hampton are complete coin flips. If I'm going to choose one of those 2, I'm going Hampton over Vidal for sure. To me, you got to lock RJ Harvey in there. And then after that, Woody Marks would probably be number 2. And number 3 would be Omarion Hampton. Final answer. Unfortunately, we're running out of time for me to dig into all the if I had more time, I would go through every single one of these players on the week winner, but we're running out of it. Again, if you ever want to scoop up the week winner, just go to WHOP.com/BBFF. You can get it for less than a bag of Doritos. You can scoop up the Black Friday bundle. And all of my research is in one spreadsheet. You got to go to one spot. That's it. So there it is. Hopefully that helps. All right. What do we got next? Wandier wants to know Titans or Ravens defense. So I mentioned earlier in the show, if you're just tuning in, one of the tabs on the week winner is the streamers and stashes tab. Over on the right side, you're going to see wide receivers to keep an eye on or add to your bench if you have space. Running backs to stash if you have space. These are guys that could become league winners if something that happens to the guy in front of them. By the way, Chuba Hubbard is on bye this week. If you have one free bench spot, I have seen him available in Yahoo leagues, and he's very much in play again after a high volume game last week. Quarterback streamers, tight end streamers, kicker streamers. We've been working on a project since week 1 of last year to identify kickers that are going to score at least 11 fantasy points in their upcoming games. Definitely found a lot of trends that are repeatable week after week after week. I won't dig into the details of what that is, but we do have some trends to help identify kickers that are going to have a big game in their upcoming game. And of course, defenses. These are the top streamers of the week. Ravens and Titans. Honestly, you could flip a coin and go with either one. I do have the Ravens listed slightly higher than the Titans. So I'd probably go with the Ravens, but honestly, I'm totally fine with going Titans here as well. So Ravens are slightly higher, if that helps. Sit 1 between Egbuka, Ladd, Nico, and Rice. There's no chance I would bench Rice at any point, even despite the matchup. Nico Collins, I would have in there as well. Egbuka is ice cold. Buccaneers won't really have to throw the ball too much. Nothing that's scary about the matchup. And then I'd probably bench Egbuka, but I don't want to bench any of those. You're in a pretty good spot, pretty good situation to have if you have to put one of those guys on your bench. I'd probably go Egbuka though. My friends, if you enjoy the content, if you enjoy what you're looking at right now, really easy ways for you to support the show and ensure that we keep doing the show. So I mentioned earlier that Tanner and I are on a mission to get to 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, and we are less than 70 away. So if you're enjoying the content of the show, please, please, please be sure to hit the thumbs up, hit that like button, subscribe to the BBFF YouTube channel. We are so close to 1,000. That's going to be a really cool moment. I mentioned I am doing everything I can to grow my Twitter account, grow my Twitter following. So if you're on Twitter, on X, you want to hang out over there, I try to post daily. Sometimes I miss a day or two, but usually this is where I'm sharing plenty of fantasy football insights throughout the week. I'm at BBFF Mikey. Come follow, come hang out with me over there. And of course, if you guys liked what you've seen today, the week winner, I don't have week 15 out yet, but I'll get that up on Monday or Tuesday. You guys will be able to scoop up the week 15 week winner for $2.99, week 16, week 17, wild card, divisions, whatever. Or I recommend, and it's been a very popular package as of late, the Black Friday bundle, which I decided to just keep going, keep up with. You're going to get every week winner, which is what we've been looking at here, and contextual analysis for every single quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end, defense, and kicker in every single game, every single week. Next week, we're going back to all 32 teams playing football in the week. So every single player in those games is going to be in the week winner. So you're going to get access to all of them. Week 15, 16, 17. I don't do a week 18 version, but I do come back for wild card, division, conference, and Super Bowl. You're going to get access to the Discord server, which is 123 fantasy football players hanging out, talking ball, helping each other dominate, answering start-sit questions. I'm in here hanging out. We're talking betting. We're talking DFS. We're talking fantasy golf, basketball, baseball. We got people firing up leagues that you can join in here. It's a great time to hang out in here. And of course, you are getting access to autographed jersey giveaways that I run every single month. The next jersey giveaway that I do is going to be 1 week from today, the 8 a.m. show on Sunday morning, December 14th. No additional cost required at all. You just need to be a member of Basement Brewed Fantasy Football. On the live show next week, I am going to spin the wheel, and whoever it lands on wins an autographed jersey of their choice. They get to choose the jersey. They send me a list of names, 5, 10, 15, 20 names of players that they would like to add to their collection. And we go hunt it down, get a jersey from their list, and ship it right to your door. That's just free. It's my way of saying thank you. It's my way of giving back to people who support my dream, people who support my business, Basement Brewed Fantasy Football. I quit my decade-long corporate career in March of 2022 to do everything I can to make this my full-time career that I do for the rest of my life. So as a way of saying thank you to those who support it, I give away an autographed jersey every single month. Next giveaway is 1 week from today on the live show at 8 a.m. So I highly suggest the Black Friday bundle because you get all of that for $14.99. I'm basically asking you to just buy me lunch and I'll give you everything that I do over the next several weeks. So other than that, guys, I got to bounce. I'm losing my voice. I'm losing everything I got. Hopefully this was helpful to a lot of you guys. I got nothing left. I will see you guys on the fantasy football field. Good luck in week 14. I want to see you guys in the playoffs next week. Come hang out with me on Twitter. I'll probably be active today. If you got other questions, any thoughts, throw them out there. We'll see if I have time to get around to them. Really appreciate you guys tuning in, staying tuned in. Hopefully you enjoyed the show. Remember to hit that like, hit that subscribe button. I will see you guys on the fantasy football field. Cheers.